Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the May 12th, 2025 Portsmouth Town Council meeting. If you would all please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women in harm's way. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. First off, we're going to review our emergency evacuation plan. If in event of emergency, if there is a reason to evacuate, you have 3 exits, the door you came through, 1 behind you to your left, and 1 behind Mr. Reese. If you would all please exit orderly, and we'll meet across the street at the school building and await further instructions from first responders. Madam Clerk, can you please do the roll?
Mr. Gleason,
Here.
Ms. Blank,
Here.
Ms. McDowell,
Here.
Ms. Patton. Here. Mr. Piero,
Here.
Mr. Reese,
Here.
Mr. Hamilton.
I am here. For the meeting this evening, we had an executive session to discuss property in town. We reviewed a potential acquisition of a property, and there were no votes taken. It is a long-term plan, hopefully, and we'll have more later. All right. First up, we have our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept as presented?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, sitting as the Board of License Commissioners, we have Peddler City. First up, we have an entertainment license, which I guess is premature, but we'll do it anyways, since we have a public hearing for the noise ordinance after the entertainment license. But entertainment license for SHM NEB LLC, doing business as Safe Harbor New England Boat Works at 1 Lagoon Road for Safe Harbor Race Week 2025, August 8th, from 6:30 to 9:30.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have 2 peddlers license for mobile food establishments for the Perky Turkey LLC, 20 Prescott Avenue, Riverside, and Timothy Aldrich, CDTA Enterprises LLC, doing business as D's Deli Mobile, 1296 Cranston Street, Cranston. Yeah, oops, sorry, there's 3. MC Food Truck Incorporated, 7 Canterbury Street in Worcester.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Annual peddler's license for TP Bronx LLC, doing business as Gallery House, 1720 Mass Avenue in Lexington, Massachusetts, and Gwendolyn Gardner, 6 Findlay Place, Newport.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a daily liquor license, Class F, for Newport Sings, a fundraiser to be held at the Common Fence Point Arts, Wellness, and Community Center at 933 Anthony Road on June 8th, 2028, from 5:30 to 7:30.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And then we have 2 licenses with fee waiver requests for the annual Portuguese Portuguese American Citizens Club annual St. Anthony's Feast. One is for a victuals license and one is for an entertainment license from July 17th from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. for both the victualler and the entertainment license.
Move to approve both licenses with fee waiver. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Motion to adjourn from the Board of License Commissioners. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We have minutes from our 28th, 29th, and 30th meeting with our budget discussions. Any corrections or?
Mr. President, I just have a question, not on these minutes, But we're asked for approval of these minutes. Where are the earlier minutes of 4/14, 17, and 27? They haven't been presented yet.
They're still being worked on, Mr. President. The town clerk had to go out for surgery. She's still out. And she'll get to them as soon as she can.
Okay.
Any others? Ms. McDowell?
I just have a question on the 4:30 minutes. And under the minutes, it says that motion to reduce the town council budget to 4% made by Ms. McDowell. I believe it should be a motion to amend to reduce the town council salary increase to 4% and not the budget.
Correct. That is what you said. Yes.
So that's the only thing.
Salary increase to 4%.
Yes,
Yes.
not the whole entire budget.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So
The
Do I have
motion
a-
would be to approve the minutes with the one correction by Council McDowell.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Mo- Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Rayner, your town administrator's report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. On Sunday, May 4th, members of the Portsmouth Police Department participated in the 40th marching of the Aquidneck Island National Police Parade. This event honors members and remembers fallen law enforcement officers from across the region. This year's parade honored police officers who lost their lives in 2024, including officers from the Connecticut State Police, the Billerica, Massachusetts Police Department, and Endicott College. The parade extended from West Main Road in Middletown to Washington Square, Newport, and was a fitting tribute to the fallen officers and their families. At the request of the town council, I've invited the directors of the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce and the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns to brief the council on their organizations and the benefits of Portsmouth's continued membership. Aaron Donovan Boyle, Executive Director of the Chamber, will appear before the council on May 27th, and Randy Rossi, Executive Director of the League, has agreed to present later in the legislative season. Both understand the context of their invitation and will be prepared to speak to their current initiatives and advocacy efforts on behalf of Portsmouth. The commanding officer of Naval Station Newport held a Navy community leadership meeting last Thursday. Leaders and staff from across Newport County participated in a visit to the waterfront work site where construction is ongoing in preparation for the arrival of the NOAA headquarters and several U.S. Coast Guard cutters. This was followed by a presentation on construction activities and initiatives and base updates by the commanding officer at his headquarters. And then lastly, I'm pleased to announce that Portsmouth has once again been recognized as a Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation for 2024. This designation reflects our ongoing commitment to urban forestry and environmental stewardship, and is made possible through the efforts of our Tree Commission chaired by Scott Wheeler and our Tree Warden, John Fitzgerald. Their work alongside the Department of Public Works, formerly led by Brian Woodhead and now directed by Paul Rodericks, continues to enhance the livability and sustainability of our community. So thank you, guys. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Okay, questions, Mr.
I just have a couple more things I'd like to get some information on. Can you give us an update as to the status of the directive that the council gave you regarding the transition of all existing cases from the former town solicitor to the new town solicitor?
I can, it's not on the agenda, but I'm working with.
Well, it's part of the update that I didn't see, so it didn't have to be on the agenda, I figured.
Counselor, I'll be happy to let you know what's going on. Received a number of emails from both the current solicitors and the existing solicitor, and we're working on a letter that will be presented to Solicitor Gavin so he can turn his caseload over to the new solicitors.
All right, because the motion and vote was to provide a 3-week transition period to be accomplished no later than close of business on May 13th. That was what we agreed to.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Ms. McDowell?
I just have a question regarding an update on the prosecutor's applications.
Yes, we received a number of applications for the prosecutor, as I relayed in my update to the council in previous correspondence. This week, the staff that works most closely with the town prosecutor will take a look at those applications. And then when we forward those applications to you for your review and discussion at the second meeting of this month, you'll also receive some of their comments regarding those applications.
How many did we get?
Can I just, so could we get those applications tomorrow?
As soon as we get in tomorrow, we'll package them up and send them to you.
Okay. And if we do, I would like to talk about having a special meeting. I mean, they were due in on May 1st, and I haven't seen them yet. I'd like to have a special meeting to start with interviews and get this process done. I mean, I think we're over the limit here, personally.
That's
So-
between you and the president and the vice president,
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion then
It's
to,
not appropriate to make a motion at this point in time because it's not on the agenda. We,
is that,
It's not on the agenda, it would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Everybody's right. You can schedule a special meeting. It doesn't have to be on an agenda, but just not tonight. You can work through this normal process, schedule a meeting. We'll be having council rules of procedure to address all this, but you can schedule a special meeting without making a motion right here.
without
tonight.
making a
Yes,
motion?
yes.
But that special meeting could happen then, let's say, at the end of the week? Or,
we can discuss future meetings.
You can
during
discuss future meetings, yes.
During future meetings. At the bottom there.
okay, great,
Yeah.
great, thank you, thank you. Thank you, future meetings, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? No. Next up, we have resignations and appointments. We have 3 resignations of Ms. Rounds from the Dog Park, Ms. Quinn from the Economic Development Committee, and Ms. O'Hara from the Tree Commission.
Motion to accept with regret?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. On to old business. We have a discussion of pension fund and fund balance policy. During our last meeting with the budget, we had a discussion of moving $600,000 out of the our fund balance and or rainy day fund into the pension fund. But our rainy day fund policy doesn't allow us to do that unless it's advertised. So now it's been advertised. So we have to bring it back up again and revote to move $600,000 from the current unrestricted fund balance to the pension fund. Would somebody like to make that motion? I
So
don't think we
moved.
have to discuss it anymore.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes 4-3, as it did 2 Wednesdays ago. And next, I would like to request a public hearing to propose changes to Chapter 65, the unrestricted general fund balance, to amend the ordinance to reflect higher levels than the 8 to 16% currently and make it 13 to 17%. General government accounting principles say that we should have 2 months rainy day, which is actually 16.7, not 16. Currently, we are at about 13% with the motion that was just passed and the motion that we made to remove $890,000 for the roof. So that puts us at about 13.83%. So me personally, are not comfortable doing that, but this is just to advertise for a future meeting. Doesn't have to be on the 27th. It could be in June, could be in July, as far as I'm concerned.
So moved.
Can you
Second
that
for
one?
discussion.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Mr. Dow.
Well, I just have a question regarding the first thing, because we did that for the school roof. We voted.
But
and
that
it
was
wasn't
advertised.
On the, no, well, if you look at the agenda, it wasn't. It was not
It
advertised.
it was in Mr. Rayner's letter.
Okay, we're really, nitpicking here because we had to revote this, but we don't have to revote the school, because if you look at the agenda, I have the agenda somewhere. It does not say voting for that.
It doesn't specifically, but I'm more than happy to bring it back if you want.
It's just, I think, you know, my feeling on what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I've said this 100 times already since I've sat on this. We have to be consistent. And if we're not consistent, it's not good.
No, I will,
This was what was in there.
yes,
Right,
it was a letter discussing where to get the money from.
right.
When you decided to pull $600,000, there was no advance notice in the budget or notification based on it. And the only reason I brought this up is because as I was reading the fund balance policy, it specifically states in number 7, has to be advertised. So we will have it reviewed by our current solicitors. If it has to come back, we'll bring it back.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. President, if I
Yes,
may,
please.
I don't have a problem with this going into a public hearing somewhere down the road, but I think the proper thing to do would be to let the Pension Advisory Committee take a look at this
It's got
first.
nothing to do with the Pension Advisory Committee.
Well, it does and it doesn't, only because I say that because they are our group of financial people. You know, and they can look at this from a financial standpoint. Does this make sense? Or rather than us?
They are the
trying to
Pension Advisory Committee, not our Fund Balance Advisory Committee.
decide, of which you
but-
do not have one. We are the Fund Balance Advisory Committee.
We are.
And if I may, to back up the president, this council made the decision to move the funds around, not the pension advisory committee that took action and told us to do the 334. And we just kind of went middle finger in the air. We're going to change it and we're going to do whatever that we want to do. So to say that we're going to just kick the can back, it's a little reminiscent of a little bit of the PTSD when it comes to trash. We were just kicking it back to them to come back to us when we already the ones that took the action. So why does it need to go back to them for action that we already took?
It's making an evaluation on whether you should have
But you may-
between 8% and 16% and 13% and 17%. I don't know.
But moving 600,000 didn't need an evaluation, did it?
We did that.
We did that.
Correct.
So why changing an ordinance?
We
that-
basically just expedited the process for what was recommended to us, 300, 300, 400 became 600. which
Okay,
become that
because
$1
that
million.
was prudent and didn't create holes in the budget. So we're just gonna go ahead and move that money, but to change a policy, we're gonna kick it back to them to bring it back to us. It's an ordinance of the town council.
I respect your opinion. You can respect mine.
No,
It was just a suggestion I made.
It just seems you're adding redundancies in the system in order to be able to take action that this council is invested and charged with.
Dave, Mr. Gleason, are you just asking like for them to give us a recommendation? I mean, it's still the council's choice, but
It's
To
just a,
have
it's
them-
a change in the policy that we're using now. Does it make sense or not? That's all. If Mr. Hamilton thinks it makes sense, but are we gonna debate it or should financial people tell us the answer?
Well, the council is going to
Is it
debate it,
something that
yes.
Kayla should tell us we should be doing. Our financial person.
Ms. McDowell?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we have been working with this since 2011, correct?
Correct.
And now we want to change it to this. So can you give me the reasons besides,
I will give you
Be-
the reasons when we have a
besides
public
G-
hearing. I'm asking just to schedule a public hearing. When we have a public hearing, we will have the discussion of said item. Similar to when we scheduled the entertainment license and the hearings of the noise requests. I'm not asking to have a debate tonight. I'd be more than happy to bring facts and figures later. I'm just asking for a request to advertise for a public hearing to change the ordinance. And if at that time, this council says, nope, we're going to stick at 8 and 16, get 4 votes and you can do it. But let's just schedule a public hearing. That's all I'm asking.
well, I guess my feeling is that I'd need a little bit more information on rationale before I vote to schedule a public hearing.
Okay. There is a motion and a second to hold a public hearing. Do you want to do a date certain, anyone, or do you just want to? Why don't we wait till August? First meeting in August. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Opposed.
Ms. Patton, yay, okay, 5-2, thank you. Next, we have old business number 2, which is a continuation of the FY 26 budget. Subsection A, discussion of local appropriation and vote to revise town total appropriation to the school department to equal the local appropriation plus capital appropriation. That's a lot of words there, Mr. Gleason. Why don't you explain what you would like to do?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. If you recall, I need some help with the words, and those are the words that Mr. Rayner came up with.
That's my best
But-
interpretation.
As my request. So I will start by saying a few things about the budget that on the town side, I think Mr. Rayner did a great job on the budget. He was asked to keep it at around the inflation rate. I believe we were right on the money at 2.5%. He was asked to keep the budget at 2.5%. We did that. And then we took some pieces out of the budget at our meeting. So we've challenged our town in a tight budget already, and we've asked them to make some concessions furthermore. In like fashion, on the school side, their budget was 3 some odd percent. Sorry? 3.4. Some things that I would like to see on the school budget, if at all possible, that makes it easier for me to interpret it, because I think if anything, you can say we beat a dead horse on the town side, but we didn't even ask that many questions on the school side. I asked some questions about busing issues, SROs, and school security officers, and I'm happy to say that Dr. Kenworthy and I sent my request for clarification, and I was very happy with the answers I got back. That being said, what I'm looking to do here, and Mr. Rayner can help me with a number based on his language here, but I was looking for a challenge, if you will, for the school department to be challenged to, how do I put this? Have the same kind of type of challenge that the town has right now, to find some money in their budget that isn't accounted for. And in the case of the school committee, what I'm asking for is a number, and the number I had in mind was $250,000-300,000 that you find in your budget, but we put it in our contingency fund. So our bottom line in the budget between the school and the town's appropriation remains the same, but we have X amount of dollars sitting in our budget that if you can't find those cuts in your budget and you get to the end of the year and you say, town council, I need some more money, it's sitting there under our budget. And that's my request to Mr. Rayner, to put that into some type of language for the agenda here. So it is pretty muddy what I asked for and what this says, but that was my intentions. Would you agree, Mr. Rayner?
Yes, I think so.
Well,
By your wording, and you talk about revising the allocation to equal local appropriation, it sounds like you may have a number in mind. So
I did not have a number in mind, but I think you hit the nail on the head. We wanted to keep the bottom line number of the budget the same. Hearing you now, I realize I probably should have said plus contingency appropriation, vice capital, but regardless, it would be money that would be turned back over to the school, if I interpret to you correctly, should they need it prior to the end of the fiscal year. I did reach out to the superintendent, Dr. Kenworthy, and the business director, finance director, Chris Diero, and ask them, well, inform them that this would be on the agenda tonight and ask them to be prepared to also speak to it.
So, Mr. Gleason, if, I'll try and unmuddy it, I think. So your request would be to change the local appropriation to the school department, which is currently has been voted on at $39,407,902 to a lesser amount. And the numbers you stated were from 200 to 300,000.
Correct.
So if you wanted to do that, the motion would be to change the local appropriation by said number and moving into the town contingency
Correct.
and leaving the bottom line number of the budget still at the 76,940,969.
The bottom line doesn't change.
The bottom line doesn't change. It's just the amount allocated to the schools would be reduced by said number.
Question.
Ms. Blank.
Counselor Gleason, can you help fill me in on what might be the positives from this?
Well, I think if there's I'm sure there's a positive in there. Obviously, it's a negative for them because they've got to figure out where they're going to come up with $300,000 in their budget. But not unlike the town, we've already asked the town to find $300,000 in our budget. So that is a negative. The positive is we haven't really taken it away from you. It's sitting there. And if your roof at Hathaway starts leaking, God forbid, it's a small roof and it's only $300,000 or it's $1 million and we can contribute that back to you. It gives us another starting number as well. That's less $300,000
That would be for next year,
for next year.
for next year's.
Not that that's a lot of money in the grand scheme of the total school budget dollars, to me anyways.
Right.
But it is money.
Agree. I'm just trying to understand with it of a $3 million budget. Why try and move 300,000? Where it would then
It's-
still go back to them.
Here's the way I'll phrase the positive. I haven't come and said to the school department, could you cut your budget by $300,000? I'm saying, could you find ways of conserving $300,000? And then at the end of the day, if you can't, come bang on our door and it's sitting in our account. Would you consider that a positive?
Are you looking at it as the interest we would gain on that money?
No.
Just that it would be sitting in our account of the town and of the
I'm
school?
just hoping that that's a doable number, that at the end of the day, they have saved that money and we've saved the taxpayers $300,000.
You're not going to save the taxpayers 300,000.
Well, it's gonna end up in the
It-
surplus fund. which
It
would go-
lowers the starting point for next year for what the school department can ask for. So if they, and I'm going to round it down, ask for 3% again next year, the 3% is off of 39,107 if you're using Mr. Gleason's 300,000 as opposed to 39,407. So it's a smaller jumping off point. That's all.
Mr. President, if I may. And Mr. Rayner and Dr. Kenway, maybe you guys can answer this question. If we're going to be allocating these funds in a contingency fund, whatever we want to call it, at 300,000, would an initial budgetary line still need to be made for the school department? And if so, because the council is voting in order to give funds to the school committee, would the council be able to claw any of that money back?
Technically, no.
Thank you.
Right now, what's on the table and what you have provisionally approved was the appropriation of $39,407,902.
Mhm.
If you were to do what Councilor Gleason is suggesting, my understanding is that 300,000 or whatever number it is would be sitting in a town controlled account that if it needs to be used, would be given to the school. If not, then it would stay in the town's fund balance or a contingency account, whatever it is you decide to do at the end of the fiscal year. But typically, money that once you've appropriated the money to the school, the town doesn't get it back.
Yep.
Because what happens if they have a surplus, they have a fund balance policy that they have to maintain. And then they also, if they go above that, that gets rolled over into their capital fund. As I understand it, correct me if I'm.
No, and I think you're right. My assessment is because although that the funds, I'm just concerned about a legal budgetary gray area because you are, although remaining in a town fund for 300K, it's still earmarked for schools. And that could still create a very murky area when it comes to who actually has that
I
money.
think we would look at it the same way we do the impact fees. That's in a town managed account, but only the school can use it under the current ordinance. And when they do need to use those impact fees, they come before the council and ask for it to be spent.
I'm just a little worried just because of the way it's structured, and I get the impact fees is probably
Yeah.
the closest relationship we have to it, but there's state law that protects the school committees when it comes to those budgetary line items. And I'm just afraid that we're getting into that murky water by doing this.
Right, so the motion would have to be just to cut the budget.
Yes.
And
but
not
that-
say we're gonna hang on to it if you need it.
yeah,
Because
so
as I stated to Dr. Kenworthy, when he was up asking about the roof, if another roof happens to fall down, well, he'll be right where he is now, asking for money to help fix a roof. But if the money is moved over and said to be held if school needs to, and they never do, and they decided they wanted to go to court and said, well, actually, our appropriation was 339,407,902, just the town hung on to it. I think you might have a legal case to say so,
yeah, the if school part of your
Yeah.
statement is the part that worries
yeah.
me.
yes. And then even if you bring back the $300,000 and just say, we're gonna cut it 300,000, and then Dr. Kenworthy sitting up there on June 1st saying, we're gonna be short $100,000. That addition would be the jumping off point. So we would add the 39 plus the 100, which would be 39,207. Okay. A lot of numbers. Dr. Kenworthy.
Evening. So yeah, based on the agenda item, I wasn't 100% sure. I did have a conversation with Mr. Rayner. But again, looking at the agenda item as written, right, it says, right, town allocation to the school department equal the local appropriation plus capital appropriation. So I didn't know if the intention was to do that on top of the already provisionally approved local appropriation. Yeah, I'll just state, we presented, tried to provide as much details as we could. I have a total budget right now for next year, right, expenditure wise of $48,232,127. Right, what we were presenting on last week, ready to take questions on, was the town appropriation needed to fund that budget of $39,407,902, which has been mentioned a few times here this evening. So any reduction on that appropriation at this point, however it's done, is going to necessitate me to come back to the school committee to adjust our expenditures, which at this point would lead to reductions, which we had already made adjustments. I know to Mr. Gleason's point, I get it. You're more familiar with all the discussions that have taken place on the town side, but that number that I've presented to you was arrived on after months of deliberation with our school committee, right? Who are the elected officials who are charged with making those decisions. So again, our budget for next year right now is based on that town appropriation of $39,407,902. If anything is reduced from there, I would have to make adjustments on the expenditure side, which would mean possible layoffs, program adjustments at this point. That is the best I can answer at this time.
Could it also mean things like material costs rather than people costs?
Again, we've made as many of those adjustments as we could to arrive at the numbers that we did. That would have to happen after deliberation again with the school committee. It's the best answers that I can provide at
Sure.
this time. Again, we have a budget proposed for next year. Every dollar is accounted for in our expenditures, but you know, in order to account for those expenditures, we have to make sure that every revenue dollar is accounted for as well. So based on what we knew about federal potential allocations coming in and, you know, local revenue that we're able to generate, that's how that number was arrived at for the town appropriation of $39,407,902. Not to mention, as I previewed a little bit last week, I mean, we still have this glaring issue around federal funding taking place in Rhode Island right now. By this time that I sit here in front of you tonight, we would have seen a dollar amount on our federal allocation for next year. We have not seen that. So I already have that situation which we're planning for, right? Which again, the time limit is shrinking on that, where I'm going to need to come to the school committee to propose potential adjustments to our expenditures, which could include layoffs, program, you know, adjustments, things like that. This would just compound that. That's the point I'm trying to make.
If I may, I don't think anybody in this room has any control over that, so we'll have to cross that bridge.
I get it on the federal side, absolutely, but just want you all to know that that's a very real thing that's hanging out there
Sure.
right now as well.
What I was gonna say is, you may be coming to us and say sooner than later, I need that $300,000. It's still gonna be there. But there's still a possibility, in my mind, that you could make adjustments. Now, whether $300,000 is gonna cover you on the federal side, I kind of guess not, but I'm just saying.
Right.
God forbid,
Yeah.
who knows what's gonna happen there.
And I follow everything you're saying, except we would have to account for that, right, on expenditures. I can't just hope, right, that we somehow are able to meet that number. We would have to account for it in our budget.
Mr. Gleason, would you like a lot of legal issues being bandied about? Solicitor might have something to say on this if you'd like to hear it.
I would love to hear it.
Thank you. My understanding of what you're trying to accomplish, there's a couple of things you can accomplish, as has been said. And I don't think you're trying to accomplish these. You've got a number for the school committee. That's set in stone. You're not trying to reduce that number here tonight. Did I hear that correctly? The number that's being allocated to the school committee in this budget. You're trying to take 300,000 of that money, which is allocated for the school committee, and put it in a town account, being very clear that it's the school committee's money. If they need it, it's going to go to them the same way the administrator said the building inspection fees were, building impact fees work. So it's really the school's money, but you're trying to set up an incentive and motivation. Maybe you can save this money. And at the end of the year, we'll give you kudos for doing it. We'll have this is great. Maybe we can do the same on the town side. Am I hearing that? Motivate?
That's
Okay.
exactly what I'm saying.
So based on that, there would be no state legal issue. There would be no lawsuit or anything. And it would be the same as the superintendent is saying, the federal money. You might get less federal money. That's going to impact their budget. You might get more federal money. And then that 300,000 might be able to be saved. You don't know. So the 300,000 belongs to the school. It would be in a town account, and all the school committee has to say, and it probably wouldn't be the first couple of months of the year. It's 300,000 out of a monstrous budget. At some point, we need that money. And the response of the town, as I understand your motion, is it's yours. Here you go. Thanks for trying. If I get that right, then I don't see a legal impediment in what you're suggesting happen. It's just where the money is held until and unless the school committee needs it.
But if we say that we're hanging on to the school department's allocation of the $300,000, that means that the school department's allocation for next year is based off of the 39,407,000, not the 39,107,000.
Disagree. Based on what the motion is, it's all the school department's money, the entire amount. The only question is what account does that money sit in?
Okay.
Citizens Bank or Bank of America here?
You just said you disagree, but then you said
I think
you
misunderstood.
said that you disagree but then you said it's the school department's money. So it can't be both.
It can be both.
It
and that's
cannot be both.
Cannot.
It is, hold it. It's the school department's money. The town building impact fees that are the school department's money sit in a town account. I just heard, and when the school department wants it, it comes from the town account to the school department. Why is this any different? It isn't. It's the
Because
school
you
department's
are
money.
allocating the money. And the maintenance of effort says, okay, the town allocated the money, but just held it on the town side.
It held it in a town account because the vice president is saying, we're gonna look at this as, can you save the 300,000? And if you can, we're gonna give you all the credit in the world for it. If you can't, come, here's the check. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the school department money. It can be done.
I think of the grayish area that was just mentioned is me probably mistakenly saying it would be a lesser jumping off point because it's right. It's going to be the same jumping off point for next year. It's still their money.
No, he just said it's not. So
Oh,
he
no, I
said,
didn't.
yes, you did.
A lesser jumping off point. No, it's going to be the jumping off point that is in the approved budget, which is the amount in the budget. There's no 300,000
All right.
reduction in that
Okay.
number.
All right.
Very clear.
But I would bet that the Ride lawyers would have something to say about
If
that.
we
but-
were to read the tape again, I believe you did misspeak on that.
Go ahead.
That the bottom line is still going to be 39,407,
Correct.
not the less the 300,000.
Not the lesser
Yeah.
300, yes.
Okay, so he was correct.
And the
Thank you.
ride lawyers will agree with that the jumping off number is 39,307,
Yeah,
407.
407, whatever the number is, it is.
Okay.
Thank you, solicitor.
Sure.
My 2 cents, just to be clear, is whatever you approve as the appropriation, you can't hold it back. If you approve the appropriation, you must give it to us.
Correct.
So if you want to hold it back, you have to change the appropriation.
Correct.
To be clear, I believe his motion is not to hold it back. It's to hold it in a town account
No,
for distribution to the school department when it requests it.
So-
If
so-
I get that wrong, then the.
That's not
So, Mr.
when,
President,
it's an
can I
if.
challenge that assertion? I'm sorry. If it's going to be to hold it back, will the school committee have to come back in front of this council to be able to get a motion to have that money given back to them?
No,
No,
as I
I'm sorry.
understand it- Is that what, again, it's what the intent is. My understanding is it goes the same way the building impact fees do. Ask the town administrator
But
for it, they
exactly
get it.
like the finance director of the school department just said, the act of the council would be to have to hold this money back in a separate account. Would the council then have to take a separate vote in order to be able to disperse those funds?
I believe the intent of the vice president is no.
No, I'm asking you for now your legal opinion.
The legal opinion depends on whether the vice president says it needs
Based on
another
his mind,
council
then based
vote
on his motion.
or not. And I believe his motion is no. This is more of a motivation incentive for the school department to try to save the money. If it can, great. If it can't, go to the administrator and get the check. I believe that's what he testified his intent is.
Just for clarification, Mr. Rayner, when the school department needs impact fee money, did we or did we not we made a motion for that, I believe, did we not?
That's correct.
Okay,
They came
so-
before you as an agenda item.
Yeah, so it was an agenda item. So I would tend to agree that what we have done, past precedents would be that it would come back as an agenda item to approve that money. For the school
If
department.
you make a motion to say, we're gonna cut the school appropriation by $300,000 and make it 39,107, blah, blah, blah. And then add to that the caveat that it's here for when the school needs it. You have not cut the appropriation. The appropriation legally will still be 39,407,000, ...
Disagree.
You just said it twice the opposite way.
The opposite way is right. That way is, I disagree. It's correct. If you make the appropriation the 107, it's going to be the 107. You're gonna put that 300,000 in an additional pot.
Not if you say, we're gonna hold it aside for when you need it.
I agree with you if it's 407, not if it's 107.
I've heard it two different ways from that side, so we're gonna go on. Ms. Copeland.
Emily Copeland, 25 Winstone Drive, Portsmouth, Chair of School Committee. I think just as a clarification with the impact funds, that's a separate budget. We're talking about our operating budget, right? So anything that you guys allocate to us as part of the operating budget is allocated to the schools. In 2015, well, it was 2012, and I think Mr. Hamilton will remember this. And I applaud thinking about innovative ways that we can work together and save money and all that. I think the school committee is all for that too. But in 2012, we tried. We had a surplus in a capital, in our capital funds, and we transferred $1 million to the town. And we very quickly got a letter from RIDE, which we probably could dig up somewhere, that slapped us on the wrist and said, you absolutely cannot do that, right? Because even though Portsmouth has a good relationship with the town and the schools, other cities are not so lucky, and they would see that as a clawback effort. And so essentially they said, you can't do that, which is why we put the money in the capital fund, which is town money, it's town buildings. It all saves the taxpayer if we don't have to go in digging into other funds. So I would just say, if we do run a surplus, and this is just something we've really tried to impress on the town council over the years, it's not a bad thing. We don't want the schools spending down every penny thinking they've got to use it or lose it, because one, that's just not the way you want to run things. But two, if we can save money, we should save money. And it goes into the capital fund, and then it's there when we have things like roofs or septic tanks, and we've had a number of emergency repairs this year. So I get a little nervous when I hear people say, oh, if the schools need it for a roof, it will be there, because that's a separate fund. That's our capital. Whereas the operating budget is what we do every day: teacher salaries, general aids, supplies, all the stuff we need to do. And what you're really talking about doing now is cutting the operating budget. So yes, we had the hearing and there were only a couple of questions asked, but maybe we can figure out a way in the future that we've offered to have the town council sit in on a school committee rep, and sit in. We had 3 public full hearings on the budget. We had 2 finance subcommittee hearings on it. So it's been publicly reviewed 5 times on our side. We've gone through it. We have the superintendent has a great working relationship with the town administrator. We really worked before we presented it to you to get it down. So I feel, it's very disappointing to me that at this point in the process, all of a sudden it's like, find $200,000, right? Well, we can't sort of say our budget is 3.4 approximately. We have to have, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have to say it's 3.1, which, this year we shut spending lines down early because we had the pension hit of 250. I think in a way we're almost creating more problems if we do that. I would say I get the idea, and I know Mr. Hamilton has worked on this in the past to reduce kind of the town ask starting level. And if that's what this is, then, that's what the town council is trying to do. They're just really trying to reduce how much our starting point is next year. But what I think we've done really well in Portsmouth, and I think the taxpayers have benefited from that, you haven't seen the swings in Portsmouth like you've seen in Tiverton, in Middletown, in Newport, where, okay, they ask for 4% every year, right? We've really kept it 1.7, 2 something. This is a higher year because of inflation. So I guess I would ask not to do this year, but I would welcome, and I think we would all welcome, let's have greater town involvement on the school committee budget if you want next year. You can come to all the finance subcommittee meetings, you can come to the public meetings, and if you really want to go through it with a close eye, let's do that work when we're doing the work, as opposed to after we've already kind of got it done to spring this on us. So again, I respect the idea, but I really feel like the timing for this year, maybe we can do it for next year. If we really want to take a closer look at things. And again, kudos to our school administrators, because you don't want to run a deficit in the schools, right? Even if we needed that 300,000 and we have to go to a rainy day fund, or we have to come back and talk to the town about it, it triggers all sorts of things with RIDE, and you don't want to do that, right? So again, I would just respectfully ask that You know, we went through the process this year. The town and the schools worked together. We've had lots of public hearings on our side. Let's keep it in place. And then if you want to change the process for next year, all open for it. So, thank you.
Okay, we have one hand raised online, so if we can go to Ms. Desjardins. Are you still there?
I am. Hi.
Go
Hi.
ahead.
Okay. Yep. Melissa Desjardins on Water Street. So I just wanted to ask, we just, a lot of us just attended this meeting to show our school support of the budget. So I guess in general, like the whole room was packed. What more can we do as citizens of this town to show you what's important to so many of us? I mean, are there citizens saying not to support this? Are they in the audience? Have they written to you? And I totally understand that there are people on fixed incomes that we should be sensitive to. And I hope that those exemptions for those people can maybe be expanded instead of further reducing the school budget. And I'm also supportive of, the tiered tax property rate. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fitzmaurice.
Thank you, Mr. President. Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. Just a couple of observations. This year's budget for the school department increases 3.4%, which I think is larger than it was last year. But the point I would make is that the 300,000, just taking a number here, is less than 1%. It's 0.7% of their budget, their operating budget. And while their operating budget is complex, and I would agree with the points made by Dr. Copeland, that we have a good relationship between our school department and our town council, and that's something to be preserved. The town's budget doesn't go up anywhere near this much. And while we might have difficulties with federal government funding, with a problem we face lots of times, this year we do not have these large reductions, thank goodness, in the state aid to education from the state. So the town's school department is not facing the normal difficulties that they normally have, that they usually have, which we complain about a lot, and should. But this year we didn't have those things from the school appropriations. And I think that's a point to be made as well. My understanding of this proposal by Mr. Gleason, and I support it, and I ask for support in the council, is that if the money is needed, it will be there upon request. And I guess that's still up in the air, which methodology we're going to use. But this is something we've done before. If memory serves, and it may not, the council was requested by the school department to provide at least some of the funding reserved, and they did provide it. So I don't think the council is going to be difficult about this sort of thing. But if at the end of the year we save this money, it should go into the fund balance. And we're using the fund balance, as we all know, to help pay for the new roof. So this kind of cycles back as well. And while the school committee is doing what it can on the roof as well, this looks like it's within reach. Good managers should be able to save 1% of their budget if they need to. Thank you.
So the request would actually, if it was the 300,000 number that's been tossed around, would drop the town's appropriation by 0.76%.
Correct. I just want to point out to the council that if you do cut the appropriation, I'm required to balance that budget. So I can't, as Dr. Kenworthy said, I can't just hope that it happens. So we'll have to go back and we will have to make cuts, whether that's staff or what have you. If I'm not unable to do that, then that does kick off the whole municipal finance deficit process. So just want to put that out there so you're aware of it.
So 300 is the number thrown around. Granted that you've gone through your entire process.
I'm not throwing that number around.
That has been thrown around, not
Okay,
you.
Yeah.
Thrown at you.
Yes, okay.
I'm gonna ask you to throw a number back. Is there, for lack of a better term, fluff in the budget that could equal $100,000?
There's no fluff in the budget. I mean, I can't speak for Dr. Kenworthy, but I feel like the process we went through, Dr. Copeland explained it. It was very thorough, very open. It's a $46 million budget. Things are going to happen that aren't budgeted. Things that are budgeted aren't going to happen. We managed through that best we can, but there's nothing that I'm aware of that I could tell you right now. Yeah, we don't need that.
Thank you. Ms. McGowan?
Yeah, I just have a question. In the last 3 years, can you give me an idea of what the surplus has been over the last 3 years?
Yes. FY 24 was 348,000. FY 23 was 409 and FY 22 was 496. Just keep in mind, some of those years, there was significant federal COVID money coming in that impacted some of that.
And where are you tracking for FY 25?
For FY 25, I've been warning the committee of a deficit since I think October. We've been managing through that very significantly early on. We cut our budget by about $600,000. We didn't fill positions, all discretionary funding. We cut off all purchases on April 1st as well. So we've been working through that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I didn't get, what was the, what is the, you're working a deficit, you said?
We've closed the deficit, so we don't expect to have it, but we don't expect the surplus. Of course, we won't come in exactly at zero, but we're going to make sure that we don't have a deficit.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Vice President Gleason, I need to clarify what you're asking for my legal opinion, because one is yes and one is no. You open this discussion by saying, I have no intention and my proposal is not to cut the town appropriation. Is that still your motion? Not to cut the appropriation, but rather to set aside the 300,000 in the town account. Very different legal resolution depending on what you want to do, because they're talking about the president cutting the actual appropriation, which is a very different thing. They've already been through the budget. You've already put this all out there. Then you trigger a potential deficit situation, strife between the two, the approved budget, now cutting it versus you get your appropriation. We're just putting the 300,000 in a separate account. You ask the town administrator for it. It wouldn't come back to the council because it's got to be pro forma to be their money. If you don't get more money from the federal allocation for the operating budget, or you don't have the surpluses you do in other years, then you don't have to ask for the 300,000. But one call to the administrator, we need it. The budget's exactly on point. We get it. You're going to get it. I just have to clarify, which one is your motion? To cut the appropriation or to leave it as is and put the 300,000 in a town account?
It's your motion.
Your motion. Yeah, I don't know which one it is.
I understand the issue that Chris Diora has, the financial side, to comply with the state laws, that we don't necessarily have that restriction on the town side. I don't dare I'd say that. I'm not being a lawyer. But again, the intent was that the money is earmarked for the school. It changes by $300,000, but it's in a contingency account on the town side for their use if necessary, with basically a challenge to save $300,000 in their budget for the benefit of the Portsmouth taxpayer.
So it is to cut the appropriation.
The bottom line I don't know how you can say it cuts it, because it just transfers it into a backup fund.
Okay, but now the president, now you're confused because you have to say one or the other. You have to reduce it by 300,000 in the manager's budget by law, or you have to leave it as it is. That's the starting point. Or you can just leave everything as it is and ask the school department hopefully to save 300,000 with leaving everything alone. But as an initial matter, your motion needs to be, if you're going to change something, you have to reduce the allocation at this hour by 300,000 or leave it alone and do the separate account thing. It can't be both. And there's big legal ramifications depending on which way you go, including what the baseline is for next year.
I guess I'm confused because it sounds like you've changed your position.
So
Never.
you have two options. So I think your confusion is that he's either way, the taxpayer at home is not going to save any money. The budget is still going to be $76,940,969. It's as whether the school department is going to get an allocation of $39,307,902, or they're going to get an allocation of $39,407,902. If you vote to take the $300,000 away, but say we're just going to hang on to it on our side,
Right. Is
you're
that-
still going to have the jumping off point of $39,407,902.
That's correct.
So then there's no reason to do it.
There's no savings involved.
This,
The reason, if you take the 300,000 away, and maybe next year we'll do a better job of saying, here's your number, work your budget on this, as opposed to give us a number and we'll figure out whether or not we can fit it in our budget.
And Mr. President, someone that spent 4 years on the finance committee, the school committee, they've got to work under the assumption, even if you're putting that carrot out there, of the 39,107 because of the contingency. That does mean that it's operating a teacher or two, plus their benefits and everything are going to start getting slashed. So, and I really don't like having this discussion of like moving the money around, because the operating budget, the biggest expense that the school department has is its people. That's what teaches our kids. Like, yes, it would be great to find, and I'm sure Dr. Kenworthy and staff have all found everything, but education is not a hot dog at Costco. It's not a loss leader. It is the reason why people come to this thing. And I'm really, really worried that if we do and go ahead with this motion, that there's no taxpayer savings. You're gonna start seeing pink slips, and we're just going to be opening up this Pandora's box that is just completely unnecessary and benefits no one. So I would just advise that we kind of not have this happen, and kind of agree with Dr. Copeland of, let's just work together for the next budget so that we could start trimming wherever we can. But let's just keep the budget as is and move forward.
Same.
So
I,
I'm just going to answer that real quick. I still have the belief that there are areas to cut in the budget administratively, not teacher-wise or para, all that good stuff.
Yep.
But
Let's not open up that can of worms right now between you and I. 'cause we'll
once
do this
again,
for
we can't
years.
say where that money would come from. We can just say, here's your dollar amount. So,
And remember, we have multi-year contracts too, right? I mean,
well, yes, and that's a mistake school departments make in giving people contracts.
but I'm just saying.
Yes.
You know, we operate under a lot of constraints and I would just add too, I mean, this working together really happened before we even presented the budget. Because we came down from our last approved budget significantly to be able to fit it into the administrator's budget. So we really did kind of, it wasn't give us a number, because we feel we have an obligation to tell the town what it costs to run the schools, right? I mean, we're not doing anybody any favors to say, oh, it doesn't cost that much. And then we come up with a whole, you know, or we've got a real problem, right? But we also recognize you guys face constraints. So we had a meeting, we heard the constraints on the town side, and we really reduced it down at that point. So again, it's just very frustrating at this point to hear like a random 300,000, right? I mean, I would much prefer to have all of you involved in the nitty gritty and then be able to point and say, well, what about this? Or what about that, right? And we could have those. Why do we have surpluses? Because some years it doesn't snow, so we don't have snow removal costs. Or some years, you know, maintenance or equipment doesn't break. I mean, positions don't get filled. It's not, you know, an exact thing. And I really, you know, I'm personally very proud of our finance and administrative team when they can come in with these surpluses, because it means they're really managing their pennies well. And it goes back to the town and capital costs. So again, I would just hope that we can maybe do this next year in a different process, but thank you.
Ms. Blank, you have a question?
I recognize where you're trying to get to with this. appreciate the attempt to help with taxpayer. I agree that that is our job to keep that in mind. I don't feel like this accomplishes that. 100%, I think we should work more closely with the school department next year. Sit in on those finance meetings together and budget meetings on the school side. And though the town council cannot dictate at all how the school uses their money, we can put inputs in. And I feel like that might get us in a better position. I don't think changing the allocation is the right move. Possibly to get where you're trying to go, incentivizing them getting to zero or to a surplus for this year would help, might achieve what it sounds like you're trying to get to.
Ms. McDowell?
Well, I certainly see Mr. Gleason's, what he's trying to get to. And I certainly can appreciate that. And we're talking about a 0.7 something percent, 0.76%, looking at that as cutting. And I do agree with Mr. Hamilton that there are places that can be cut. I also know that over the last 3-4 years, there's been a surplus of 1.5, it appears, $1 million. And I think part of Mr. Gleason's, and I'm putting words in maybe his mouth, but part of his thought process may be that if we have this surplus, and I know it goes into the capital, it's for the school, but why shouldn't it come back to the town? I can see all that, but personally, I think it's very unfair at this point in the game to make those kinds of moves. We already provisionally accepted it. I just think it's unfair to a school system, and I think it also will foster some not great feelings going forward. And while I see all the points, I'd rather deal with this whole thing next year. And I think the school committee and the superintendent and the finance people know where we're coming from this discussion. You know, I mean, this is serious. I mean, we're bringing this back. So being in a school system in the past, this is big time. And I think we're being unfair to the school if we do that at this point. Had we done that earlier, maybe I would have thought differently, but it's to me too late in the game. And I just would look to see how would that play out. Let's say we have this 300,000 or 250,000 in the contingency, and come 6 months, you know, they operate as usual, given the bottom line budget, but they have to come to us every time to get this money out. I don't know, it just doesn't feel right at this point. That's all.
All right, so the numbers we're talking here in terms of jumping off points for next year. If you cut $300,000, it's roughly a $9,000 difference in the jumping off point for next year. Or if they did a 3% increase. So if you, I mean, which is about $300,000, so.
You don't have to go any further. I think that's probably a moot point at this point. I think I have a general consensus of who would support this, and there's still a potential of 4 people that could vote to, you know, cause a lot of aggravation at the school department. And I like what Mary has said, as a minimum, that we are asking for more involvement in your budget, more doing what the town is doing. They come to us, they've done the same thing you've done, except yours, you've got more constraints from the state side. But Mr. Arena has told his people, I only want you to spend this amount of money. And then we went and dug in on him as well. I don't think it's a bad thing. It just shows that we're trying to you know, support everybody that lives in town, whether you have kids in the school system or not, or you're on a fixed income, or you've got a nice big house and lots of boats and cars, or whatever it may be. We all love this town. We all trying to do the same job, you know, for the school and for the town. So that being said, I'm just going to table my motion, Mr. President.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think, did you ever make a full motion? And it
I
didn't,
did
I don't
not.
think it's second, so either way, okay. All right, so
So
that's gonna move us on to, if there's a tabling of that, is there a, we don't need a second to table it.
no,
That will move us on to FY budget, old business number 2B.
Can I just say thank you, Mr. Gleason? I really appreciate you listening, and we would welcome, we'll get it set up so that maybe, I think last council appointed 2 reps to the school committee. Maybe as a future agenda item, you could have appoint 2 reps to the school committee, and then we can work on how to incorporate all that. Really appreciate it.
sure, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rayner and Kayla, we made adjustments on April 30th.
Yeah.
Which I'm gonna try and do them off the top of my head, but a reduction of $257,000 in the pension payment. And an increase, well, we asked you to make an increase in the
Correct.
assumed interest income.
Under financial revenue, that's correct. So, I'll just so that everybody can be on the same pages, let's just walk through it. So several changes, as you just highlighted, were discussed, requested, or made during the budget meetings held April 28th through the 30th. And I'll just walk through the changes and the resulting budget impacts before asking you to provisionally approve the FY26 budget proposal. So this page here, this is the budget data points. Big picture, the general fund expenditures, as we've been discussing here, now total $76,940,969, and that represents a 3.408% total increase year over year. The tax and levy, the tax levy and the levy in its relation to the levy cap, the total property tax levy is projected to rise by 1.701%, and the state levy cap obviously is 4%, so we're well below that. The proposed tax rates are now residential and commercial, 13.283 per 100 or per $1,000 of assessed value, and the tangible is frozen at 15.651. So if we go to the budget message on page 6, that was updated. So as I've just stated, there's a 3.408 increase in the overall budget. Vice, what was originally proposed at 3.756. There's a 1.901% increase in the residential property tax levy by 2.626. And the increase, I'm sorry, the resulting residential tax rate, it went up 0.771 vice the prior proposal of 1.492%. So if we go to the executive summary on page 8, this new summary page reflects revenues and expenditures, which have been reduced to the 76,940,969 number, vice what was originally proposed, which was 77,199,531. We'll come back to this page here in just a moment. The following page on page 9, this is the revenue summary, and this page was updated to reflect a revised property tax total. So that revised number is 65,047,885 vice the original 65,481,448. And as you stated, the finance revenue for interest income was revised. So we have finance revenue total at $406,000. And again, that reflects the higher anticipated interest income.
All right, so should we stop you there on this page and re-provisionally approve the revenues of $76,940,969 since we've made adjustments to
Your
that?
Vice President, we can do that, or we can just provisionally approve the bottom line budget. But I guess in keeping with prior practice, we'll do each page.
Okay, let's approve items as we go.
Okay.
And then do a provisional of the entire budget at the end, so
Sure. So
that way we
if-
cover everything.
Right. So if you go to, what page did we just, so revenue page, page 9. All right, so we'll ask you to provisionally approve property taxes. The total,
Well, we just have to.
I'm sorry, I
approve
was
the-
on
Just the
summary.
revenue. Just, we don't
Sorry.
approve the property taxes, just
That's
the
right.
revenue of total.
Sorry.
So, just the total.
Well,
A
what
motion.
I'm doing here, Mr. President,
Sure.
we'll get to each one of the departments. Right now, that's just the summary. All right, I'm telling you what changed on those summary pages.
Right, but the first night, we approve the revenue provisionally,
Okay, so let's.
which is 76,940 as opposed to the 77, whatever it was.
Okay,
So I think we should provisionally approve the bottom line revenue number, which will then get balanced out by the expenditures and the changes that we've made.
I'm tracking.
Okay,
We're going to do each of the departments here that were changed, and we're going to come back to the executive summary. I'm going to ask you to provisionally approve those bottom line numbers, revenue and expenditures.
okay.
So we left off on page 9. Yeah, so what we changed there, we just changed the property tax total and the finance total as we've just discussed. So if we go to now pages 14 and 15, these pages were updated from what was originally presented. And this is based on the updated 2025 tax roll assessment valuations. And that was updated with the tax assessor's current gross assessed values and current exemption amounts. So that resulted in revised net assessed values and new levy totals. And this is what drives, obviously, a major proportion of our revenues. So then we get to page 16. Here's your property tax revenue, and this is what I'll ask you to provisionally approve for property tax. We changed, that pages 14 and 15 resulted in change in the property tax revenue. So that went to $65,325,125 from what was originally presented as $65,768,658. And we also revised the allowance for uncollectible in real property. And that was revised from $1,479,787 to $1,469,815. So we'll ask that you provisionally approve property tax revenue at $65,047,885.
Do I have a motion to provisionally approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next.
So the next change is on page 19. And here, Mr. President, here's where we come to the finance revenue. So revised projected interest income went from 225,000 to 400,000, resulting in a new total of $406,000. So we ask that you provisionally approve finance department revenue of 406,000.
Motion to provisionally approve the finance revenue at $406,000.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so that is it on the revenues. Then if you go to the expenditure summary, first page 24. And the changes there, the canvassing budget was reduced from 315,491 to what's recorded there at 314,91. And information technology was increased by $10,000. So that went from 404,404 to 414,404. And 10,000 was taken out of the planning budget, moved into that info technology budget. So the planning budget went from 571,840 to 561,840. And then on the following page, on page 25, we zeroed out the pension liability, the additional payment into the pension fund. That was originally budgeted at 257,163, and because of the motion to utilize 600,000 from the fund balance, we zeroed that out. So the new expenditure total equal to revenues at 76,940,969. And then we'll come back to this in a moment. So on page 76, we did add some information. On page 76, there was a request that we add debt service charts, so that was added as page 76. There was also a request, if we go to page 93, there was a request to add a breakout of OPEB expense allocation by department. And that was added on page 93. There's a table there right above that chart. So now, if we go to page 8, we're back to the executive summary. So here you can see the revenues equal the expenditures at $76,940,969. And this does reflect the revenue updates for general property taxes, the total levy, the uncollectible allowance for real property, net tax revenue, total property taxes, change in government spending, total municipal revenue, and total revenue at the top page, half of that page. And then at the bottom of the page where you have your expenditures, we updated general government expenditures, other items. That's the pension and total municipal expenditures and total expenditures. So we are asking for the council's provisional approval of the proposed FY26 revenues of 76,940,969 and expenditures of $76,940,969.
We made all the corrections within the individual budgets when we did it, when we took the 257 out.
That's correct.
Provisionally approved it with the 257 out.
That's correct.
And we did the planners with the 10,000 out and moved it to the other. Okay. Do I have a motion to provisionally approve the FY26 budget revenues at $76,940,969?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, I will ask to have a provisional approval of the expenditures also at $76,940,969.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next step will be to formulate the advertisement, put it out for 30 days, and then have our town hearing on the 11th, 9th, June 9th. Okay. No, the 11th.
Yeah, the public hearing is on June 11th.
Correct. It's
Now
not
you're
listed on my future meetings. That's why I had to do the math of 2 days.
You'll be scheduled to adopt the fiscal year 26 budget on the 23rd, and then the budget would be submitted to the state on the 24th.
So a required public hearing will be June 11th. Probably here in town council chambers. Okay. Thank you all for coming out tonight who wanted to talk budget. We're now going to move on to old business number 3, Safe Streets for All. And we have Ms. Hitchin and also Tool Design, who was the first one on Zoom tonight. Good evening again, Ms. Hitchin.
Good evening, Councilman Hamilton and Town Council members. This is not the first time we have looked at Safe Streets for All. Back in June, almost a year ago, we made a high-level presentation to the Town Council for a kickoff presentation where we explained what we were doing and how this $5 million in funding was going to go to support infrastructure improvements that hopefully will promote roadway safety, aiming to prevent accidents that result in serious injuries and fatalities. Back on January 27th of this year, the Town Council passed a resolution expressing the town's support for an adoption of a Vision Zero policy, which went very well. And at that time, I queried the Town Council, and several members asked that they wanted to see the safety action plan upon its completion. So another reason why it's back here. With me tonight
is Shauna Kitzman from Tool Design. She just is going to go another quick high level of the safety action plan that I provided you back on April 28th. Hopefully you had some time to peruse all the statistics. Once we have the safety action plan approved, we are now in a decent timeline where there's the Department of Transportation has opened up a round of discretionary grant funding where we have the opportunity to submit hopefully a regional application, working with Middletown and Newport no later than June 26th. So in order to get higher points, to have the resolution, to have a safety action plan, and to submit an application that is on a regional approach, makes it look better. So I'm going to turn it over to Shauna, who has been waiting very patiently, and she has a very quick PowerPoint presentation to provide.
Hi, Leah. I just want to make sure you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, and it looks like I'm not able to share my video, but I could, yeah, I'm not able to share my screen or the video. I don't know if Miss Inch can help.
Kathy is working on it. There you go.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Okay, great. All right. Thank you for having us. We're really happy to be back here and appreciate your time tonight. So let's get into it. If I could advance my slides. Okay. Yes, as Leah mentioned, we were speaking with you several months ago, at which point you adopted the resolution to establish Portsmouth as a Vision Zero community. And part of that commitment is to take measures to eliminate crashes that result in death or serious injuries by 2034. The safety action plan that we developed over the last 6 or 8 months is the technical and strategic document that outlines the specific and data-driven actions to improve roadway safety in Portsmouth that follows your Vision Zero pledge. And we're here tonight to ask the town council to approve the resolution to adopt the safety action plan. That document, which Leah shared a couple weeks ago, outlines all those specific steps and strategies to get you to your goal. It also includes a list of responsible parties and different benchmarks to maintain progress towards the Vision Zero goal. You might recall that we developed this plan closely with Leah and Aaron in the planning department, Brian Woodhead in public works, representatives from the police department, and several local advocates for roadway safety, as well as Senator Linda Uji-Fuso. All of those folks served on our task force for about 10 months. I wanted to pull out one of our maps. This is a heat map that illustrates our high injury network. As I'm sure will surprise none of you, East Main Road has the most prominent hotspot. Most of the injury crashes in Portsmouth happen at the intersection of West Main Road, where Corey's Lane and Headley Street come to a kind of awkward intersection, as well as the intersection of West Main Road and Union Street, and the intersection of East Main Road and Turnpike Avenue. So this is just one of the many visuals that you might have seen if you had a chance to flip through the document. We understand the document is pretty dense. There's a lot of data in there. There's a lot of appendices, a lot of outlines about who we talked to within your community and what they had to say. Our data science team conducted a crash statistic analysis using data that was provided by Rhode Island Department of Transportation, and that data originates from your local police department. We reviewed 5 years of data, so we looked at data from 2019 to 2023. That's a typical timeline used in safety action plans because it strikes a practical balance between data reliability and relevance. Just a couple of top line stats here. Within that 5-year time frame, there were over 1,000 total traffic crashes. And then of those, 160 of those led to either death or injury. So that was about 15% of the crashes. There was also 29 crashes where someone died or was seriously injured, and there's a higher probability that those people are either walking or biking. In addition to the plan, we're creating some shareable animations that are shown here. We sent these over to Leah and Aaron about a week ago. We have a whole package of these GIFs that can be shared with the police department, your school district, any communication channels that your town would like to amplify that, hey, we're a Vision Zero community. We're committed to reducing deaths and serious roadway injuries in our streets. And just here's some like bite-sized information for people to understand that the town is up to this effort. I just want to also mention that we're creating what are called tip sheets. These are short, succinct, highly visual documents that are intended for elected officials, municipal staff, and other Portsmouth leadership to reference. They have a lot of key data, some talking points, and they really focus on the link between roadway safety, children, older adults, and economic development benefits. So those will be, we'll be filtering those to Leah and Aaron within the coming weeks, and you should be seeing those soon. So just one more of those animations that we've created. So yeah, out of all your crashes, so about 1 in 34 involves a distracted driver. So that likely does not come as a surprise. The plan itself is broken down into 4 strategies. It's really based on the global framework for Vision Zero. And within those strategies are 43 actions. So I'm not sure if you remember, but we created this with input from your task force. We met 3 times over the 10-month time period. We also developed strategies based on feedback from Leah and Aaron, as well as what we heard from the community and what the crash data showed us. The actions within this project relate to policy. They talk about how to adopt a regional approach to support safer streets, not just in Portsmouth, but throughout the island. We identify ways to increase roadway safety and to slow speeds. There's a high correlation between speed and the severity of crashes, not just in Portsmouth, but everywhere. We'd like to increase the community's commitment to Vision Zero and people's awareness of that through education and enforcement, and then provide transparency around post-crash care and data so that it's easier to understand what your crashes are telling you. We also recommend a time-based approach. So some actions start as soon as 2 months after plan adoption. And we recommend partners, and those can include municipal staff, school stakeholders, organizations such as AARP, RIPTA, who runs your transit operations, and Bike Newport. As Leah mentioned, well, first of all, I'm super proud of Portsmouth and your commitment to this process. Leah and her team have been wonderful to work with, and we did it. We created a plan. We're very proud of this, and it includes all the core components that a safety action plan needs for USDOT. The timeline of this project was really developed back into this federal grant. It's called Safe Streets and Roads for All, or SS4A for short. Typically, there's 3 windows that are open for grant application in a year. We're in year 3 out of 5. This year, there's only one window to apply, and that window is now, and it closes on June 26th. We've been talking with Portsmouth, Middletown, and Newport stakeholders at the municipal level, mostly in planning departments. And we think there's real appetite to pursue a grant application as a region that really focuses on sidewalks and pedestrian safety throughout the island. Another big focus is on children's safety. In Rhode Island, children are disproportionately impacted by pedestrian and bike crashes, in particularly near schools. And children ages 15 to 18 are more likely to be involved in those crashes, mostly because they're more likely to be out by themselves without a parent or guardian. I wanted to draw one other nugget of information because I was sitting here listening to the school budget discussion, and implementing safer streets can reduce the school district's busing operating costs over time. As more children and families feel comfortable, they can travel to school on foot or bike, and they don't need to have a bus. So that is my presentation. I would love to hear any questions, or if you had a chance to look at the safety action plan, if you have any feedback, or yeah, just questions for me.
Any questions from the council? So with the adoption of this plan, you'll be allowed to make grant requests for funding. And if we didn't have it, you wouldn't be able to.
That's correct.
Okay. I do have one kind of quick question, and I don't want you to answer it tonight, but do you think there would be a difference in the number of crashes if we didn't use a year when we had a global pandemic? So if you were to take, say, 2015 through 2019 data, would you anticipate these numbers would be higher if we didn't use 2020 numbers?
Well, I mean, across the US, there was less traffic during the peak pandemic, but when things started to reopen, like schools and places of business, that traffic, the congestion, the roadway, the amount of people using the roads really came back up. And there's also just been anecdotal evidence that people drive more aggressively now. There's, people just seem to have less regard for rules of the road. I will say, part of this plan is to continue to look at that crash data. So not to only refer to the 5-year period that we looked at, but maybe in 3 or 4 years, take another look at a more recent chunk of 5 years and see how it's changed since.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no questions, do we have a motion to adopt the plan? Do you have a
I do have
question,
a
Mr. Lee?
question.
Okay.
You say this $5 million, is that the federal money that's allotted, or is that what we're applying for?
That was federal money to support the RIPTA grant, which is going to 31 municipalities spread across the state for contractors and consultants like Tool Design to do safety action plans for individual communities.
So the 5 million is not part of the grant we're looking for?
No.
That was just for the engineering.
That was for the consulting firms to do the safety action plan and Vision Zero policy.
Okay. And the money that we are seeking, what is the magnitude of those dollars? Because it sounds like your main focus is trying to make more sidewalks in town for people that want to walk. Is that the crux of one of your major suggestions?
Well, we are again meeting as a group tomorrow to fine tune our high level conversation of what we all had in common and needed in Middletown and Newport. Seems to be sidewalks is a commonality for all 3 municipalities. We will continue to discuss it more, but we are up against this June 26th deadline.
Sure. I'm going to vote to approve this, but I think it would be beneficial for us to know more of what is actually happening behind the scenes. I mean, looks like there's a dozen people affiliated with the town that know more than we do. I don't know how-
We
I don't
can
know how
refer,
get
we
there.
can refer to that page. It specifically lists the people that were involved.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And, you know, I did read the package. I just want to point out some of the information that I thought was very interesting is that, you know, it looks like there are a lot of injuries with walkers and bikers. I know people still want to push the concept of riding bikes on East Main Road and West Main Road. And sooner or later, we're gonna say it's dangerous. So I think we've said it all along. And that 45% of the accidents are by out-of-state drivers, 28% by senior drivers. And the other stat here is that females between the ages of 25 to 34 are responsible for 40% of the fatalities, which seem to be more among, this is kind of, it seems like the data is a little confusing, but people age 15 to 24, which is 18%, and between the ages of 25 and 39 are also in the fatality group. Maybe we need to concentrate on better driving lessons, things of that nature. I don't know whether you discuss that kind of thing. So I guess sometime in the future, if you could just come back and tell us the plan, you know.
We will try to tick off every action item and policy that's listed in the plan. Even if it's educating drivers upon getting their license, improving those measures, that is actually in the plan.
Okay.
I am curious as to what you consider keeping you more informed. We did meet 3 times. I did present this plan to you 3 times over the course of the year. How can you provide some
Well, I think-
ideas to me as to how you would have wanted to be included more?
Well, I think it would be beneficial to me if I knew what the things are most important to Chief Peters, Brian Woodhead, or in this case, his new replacement, our fire chief, people that are on your staff, your position as a planner. I think you probably all have different viewpoints, as I would assume even our council might have, for, you know, what the problems are and what the potential solutions are. Or maybe the potential solutions we're just relying on tool engineering to come up with. I don't know. You know, I don't get that out of reading in this report, you know.
Okay, we definitely believe that sidewalk improvement, obviously with the East Main and West Main pavement improvements, hopefully coming down will significantly increase safety. You know, I think each one of us has our own opinions on the Safe Streets for All as to where it's gonna go. I don't know really what else you're looking for.
I'm not sure either. I'm just looking for some meaning in all of this, I guess. Thank you.
I really hope that there's some meaning in it. It was almost a year in the works.
Yeah. My biggest concern is when we get the new layer of tar on East Main and West Main Road, that the cars actually slow down, but I don't think that's going to be the case. For some reason, people like to go faster on new tar. So I don't know how we're addressing that, if at all.
Lots of tickets. That's the only thing we can do, like the car that just went by.
Right.
We will have to discuss that as a council to have a specific set aside to do more speed traps and enforcement with the chief of police. Because East Main Road will definitely get faster once it gets pavement on it. There's no doubt about it.
I would say so.
Any other questions? Mr. Reese?
Yes, can we fine tune this as we go along? I mean, if there's certain things, because the citizens who didn't study this may not, they might not want all the items or controls that are going to be in place. Just curious. Or is this you get into this and you got to follow the plan?
You're asking if it's a living document and we can edit as we move along? I'm sure there's opportunity
Yes.
to keep it a living document, just as every
We'll fine
document.
tune it to every town because every town is different. So you don't have a, it's like a blanket policy. And as you go along, you might find better ways to do things. So it is a living document then.
It is, and I admit I never took the time to read all other 31 municipalities' safety action plans. I'm sure there's some similarities, but there's definitely some specific items that are very clear for Portsmouth.
Leah, can I add, this is intended to be revisited within that 10 years, probably 2 more times within, so that the town and its partners can review how the actions that are being taken are or are not impacting roadway safety. So there's absolutely, the assumption that this will be revisited, reviewed, and tweaks made to make sure that the town is hitting their benchmarks to reduce crashes that result in death and serious injury. And to Leah's point, this plan itself does reflect the people that we talked to in Portsmouth and the task force that helped guide it. So anything that the task force didn't approve and vote on, we scrapped. So very much influenced by the professionals who live and work in your town every day.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to adopt the plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Next up, new business number 1, presentation of an update of the Parks and Recreation Department, Committee, excuse me, and I guess therefore the department. David.
First of all, I want to thank Juan Carlos for opening up that window. Much needed. As soon as we get this up. Yeah, if you don't mind, thank you. I want to thank everybody tonight for coming. Before I get started on the presentation, I just want to say I've actually really enjoyed seeing the other committees in town do their presentations, and I want to say it just highlights that there's a lot of really great residents in this town doing a lot of really good things. So this was nice to see everybody come together and do these reports. So
Thank you. I'm gonna hit you up with the formalities and you have to introduce yourself. And
I know,
all
sorry,
this.
David Fiorillo, 45 Hamilton Drive.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. A little bit about our committee. Sorry, if you can, first slide. Sorry, thank you. All right, first slide is our annual report. Next slide, sorry. A little bit about our committee. So our committee was formed in 2019 by a vote of the council. We are an advisory committee for the Parks and Rec Department. We have 7 members, as you see here listed. Wendy is the Parks and Rec director, April's the assistant, and Charlene Patton is our liaison, who was a former committee member. Next slide. Portsmouth Parks. I just want to take a second to walk through some of the parks and playgrounds that we have in the town. Next slide. And I'm going to try and go as fast as possible. Portsmouth is home to a rich variety of parks like no other that I know of. In this slide, you'll see that there are community parks like Glen Park that is shared by all, quiet neighborhood parks like Frank Carson's at Redwood. We have beautiful green spaces like Glen Park as well and Glen Farm. Bustling sports complexes like Gardner 70 Field, scenic nature trails like Melville, and historic parks like Butt Hills Forts. As you can see, there's parks, there's green space for everybody in this town to enjoy relaxation and adventure. Next slide. Facility upgrades and improvements. I'm going to talk a little bit about playgrounds, sports facilities, the beaches, and Glen Park. Next slide, please. Thank you. Playgrounds. Here are the playgrounds that we'll be talking about shortly. Next slide. Glen Park. So our committee has been talking about Glen Park over the past few years. We've heard from residents in the town that there would be a need for a playground in Glen Park. Happy to say that We did receive a grant and a matching funding by the town, and it was opened in December of this year. It is going to be a three-phase approach. As you see in the first phase, they added all the equipments. They added an ADA walkway and a ramp to get in, so it's inclusive for all. Phase 2 will be starting this summer, adding some new pieces of equipment. And phase 3, they're looking to put in CIP budget 2027. Next slide. Turnpike, although we can't take credit for that, but Catering did come to our committee early on, looking to see how we can get a playground built in this town. We did help her along the steps of the way, but cannot take credit for that. And the town and the residents of Portsmouth have Catering and the Four House Foundation to thank for this one. Next slide. Frank Carson's playground. This has been on our radar from the committee for a few years. We've had neighborhood residents come speak to us about what we can do with this playground going forward. So with this, we've worked with DPW, Brian Woodhead, and now we'll be working with Paul, but we've removed some brush, as you see in the upper right corner. That was a complaint from residents. There was a lot of brush that needed to be cleared. They removed some dangerous pieces of equipment that were rusted and outdated, so that was taken away. They will be adding a new piece of equipment this year and removing another piece next to that little spinner slide in the middle. And we're looking to continue that trend with Wendy. One of our committee members does live in that neighborhood, so we've been talking with her to see what the needs of that neighborhood is. And I know she spoke with Paul about continuing clearing the brush, taking away some edging. There's a bocce court that's going to be taken out pretty soon. So we'll move on. Next slide. Island Park. A few years ago, we sat with Brian Woodhead, talked about renovating a basketball court, and Island Park was chosen. So they renovated the court surface and added some new nets, and that park is beautiful. My son goes there all the time. Next slide. Sports facilities. We're going to talk a little bit about pickleball and Gardner 70 Field. Next slide. Our committee has been discussing pickleball for years, and as I think I can safely say, it's not going anywhere. Portsmouth residents do not want to be left behind. We often hear that they are leaving town to go to other towns to play pickleball. So with that in mind, we had been discussing what we can do, find locations for permanent pickleball. We did receive a grant, and it was matched by the town. And what that grant did was we were able to stripe 2 tennis courts at the high school to make 4 pickleball courts permanently striped. And we talked and discussed what piece of equipment we would need for that. They added nets. We do have a storage facility. And starting this summer, Wendy will be having a league play at the high school. So safe to say we do now have outdoor pickleball. Wendy did start with indoor pickleball at Penfield over the winter to gauge engagement to see how it went. And as you see by the attendance, it was very well attended, selling out almost all the sessions they had. And it did bring in revenue to the town of about $6,300. We're going to continue to monitor how pickleball goes and see where we can find a permanent location at some point. Gardner 70 Field. Here we'll list some improvements that we have been working to improve the safety at the complex. The committee at a recent meeting discussed installing new wood fences along Linden Lane for safety for all the people driving and trying to cross over. Some other improvements we've talked with Wendy about putting in our budget about maintaining and repairing the stone wall, which is very costly. It's better to put a little bit in each year and replace as you go versus try to do it all at once. So she is doing that going forward. We have talked about helping to renovate the T-ball fields, the Babe Ruth fields. As you see here, the amounts that the Parks and Rec Department has allocated towards that. Leonard Brown House was a big, that was renovated a few years ago, and now there is 4 rooms that are rented, and they also rent the conference room. They do exercise classes in that room, looking to do some Zumba classes in that room too. So these are all recommendations that our committee has made to Wendy at the Parks Department. Next slide. We'll talk about some beaches. Next slide. Sandy Point. Renovating Sandy Point has been a high priority for the Parks and Rec Committee. Many discussions over the years have cultivated in a very careful approach as to what we should do. We've heard from residents about the bathrooms and other amenities of Sandy Point. And I am happy to say that Sandy Point is ADA accessible, an ADA accessible beach. So we have a new walkway was renovated last year, a wider walkway, so somebody with a wheelchair can go down, where previously it was very narrow and people would have to get off into the brush to get around. The walkway has been wider. At the end, and sorry, I don't have pictures because they take them out in the winter, but they added a wheelchair deck on the sand. So anybody for a wheelchair that can go down to the beach, there will be a deck that they can park their wheelchair on and take in the scenic view of Sandy Point. The Parks and Rec Department did purchase an ADA wheel water chair, which is a wheelchair that is specially designed with bigger tires that can go into the sand and also roll into the water. So they did purchase one this year on our recommendation, and they do have that if somebody does need. Looking to the future, for the beaches, we have been discussing at previous meetings. There was talks to partner up with a rental company that you would rent paddle boards and kayaks as needed. It would be a permanent fixture at Sandy Point. We didn't quite have the budget money for, but we're asking Wendy to kind of try and put that in for upcoming years. That would just add a great amenity to the beach. Portable bathrooms. One of the things that we have heard is after hours, they do shut down the bathhouse, the bathrooms. And where do people go to bathroom after hours? I'll let you guess. So Porta-Johns, we've asked about putting that in and maybe adding a fencing somewhere so it's not an eyesore to the neighbors behind Sandy Point. Expanding a concession stand. I know there is a small concession stand on the side of the bathhouse. But we've talked about expanding that to offer more amenities to our residents. As you see, the bathhouse also was renovated, has showers outside or to wash sand off. We'll continue to work with Wendy to see what improvements we can have over the years. Next slide, please. Macquarie. Macquarie is currently only open to residents and offers no lifeguards. So what we've done this year was we added new signage to look like the other signage. We worked with wording, making sure that people know there's no lifeguards. It is residents only. And Wendy does have a staff member that stays down there, making sure it is just for residents only. Next slide, please. Glen Park. All right. Our committee has worked to make Glen Park a more enjoyable park for everybody. Many upgrades have happened over the years. Just to give a highlight, some much needed wooden benches were replaced this year. And thank you to Scott Gallo from Gallo Construction. He's also on our committee. Came in with a group of his guys. Wendy purchased the wood and they were able to get new benches put in this year. Bathroom had been renovated recently, exhibit hall. These are all things that we have heard and have been talking to Wendy about over the years. 2 new sheds, craft shed and secretary shed, and we'll go to the next slide, please. And obviously new playgrounds. Surge volleyball, that came about, I think, right during COVID, I believe. We met with Surge volleyball wanting to propose bringing sand courts to the town, much needed, was a much need for people wanting to play volleyball. Joined with a partnership with the town. We met with them, we gave the green light as a committee, and there was a joint funding between Surge and the town, and now we have wonderful sand volleyball courts in town. Next slide. Programs on participation. When we've been talking to residents, we continually hear that they have to go outside again to the town to go to other events happening. So our committee has worked very hard with Wendy to focus on bringing programs and events into the town for residents of all ages. And as you'll see by this slide, this is just a snapshot of some of the programs that we have implemented. And we're looking to grow even more over the years. I mean, summer camp is every year, but we work with Wendy to see what programming she can bring into the summer camp to make it more appealing for the kids. We have flag football, tennis lessons, which my whole family has taken lessons through that. Obviously pickleball, We've implemented yoga classes and Zumba classes, and there's vacation camp and back to basics, fitness, and there's adult softball and babysitting classes. There's a lot of programming, much more than it was when our committee was first formed. Next slide, please. Community events. Here, I would just want to highlight some events that we've had here. This summer, continuing to bring on the theme of community and bringing everybody together. Last summer, Portsmouth saw its first concert series. This summer, the summer was filled with music fun for all residents and non-residents. This was a result of years of planning to try and get something going on in the summer in this town. So as you'll see by the slide, next slide, please. By the slide, these were the events that we had, the attendance that happened. There's a beautiful flyer that was posted all around town. There was a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. We're working with Wendy to continue on that trend with new bands, bring in more entertainment for the kids over the summer, and we're looking to expand on that. We also had a community yard sale, another event that brings the community together. Just happened recently. There was about 15 vendors. About 75 to 100 people attended. The feedback from the residents that attended said it was great, and they're looking forward to another community yard sale. Holiday events. Wendy puts on a lot of holiday events that we talk about with her, and we help her with this. And she does a candy cane holiday, Easter crafting event, harvest hay rides, and many more to come. We'll continue to look and listen to the residents to see what they want and help her to implement these. Next slide. We're just going to talk a little bit about her budget and some highlights and grants. Next slide. Every dollar that's invested supports a lot of things: health and wellness, free and low-cost community events, the safer, upgraded facilities, the youth engagement, and kind of increases the property value. There's a lot of statistics that say property value goes up by 8 to 20% depending on when there's an active and vibrant Parks and Rec department and with green space. So that's good for the town. Next slide. Just some budget highlights. Every dollar invested goes to support these programs. I already read that, sorry. Next one. I think I deleted what I was supposed to say here. Oh, here we go, sorry. I don't want to go into too much detail. This was just a snapshot, but my main point I want to show here is that it's not a lot of funding to, as you see in 2022, the revenue, the expenditures versus revenue came in, and it really only cost the town about $37,000 if you look at it, the amount of revenue that came in. I just want to make, I just want to see where I'm at. Yeah, sorry. Just want to take one point that we've been talking to other Parks and Rec departments at our neighboring towns. And just to give you one example, I spoke with the Parks and Rec director at Bristol. Their budget's $1.1 million just for their Parks and Rec department, which is so vastly superior to what Wendy is working with. They have 5 full-time employees. They have over 40 seasonal staff. I mean, just a much bigger program. We have 2 full-time employees, or Wendy has 2 full-time employees, and seasonal staff for the beach and whatnot. Bristol is not required to bring in revenue. I know we're not, but it is, they do like to see revenue come in. It shouldn't be a revenue driver for the town and budget. It should be a service to the residents of this town. I think with her low 2 employees is just highlighting the fact that she kind of relies on our committee to help her foster her program and help her with programming. For grants, there's some really great grants that we helped her apply for. Powered by the Prince, which is a new one we just got, $5,000 for fitness program and fitness equipment that we just received. Merit Neighborhood Funds was about $1,250. It's used for an ADA compliant picnic table and bench at Glen Park. That was another one that we just got awarded. And Rhode Island Parks Association, going back to the whole pickleball matching grant, we received $2,389.79, which the town did match to do the outdoor pickleball striping at the Portsmouth High School. Next slide, please. Planning for the future. So our committee is already looking for the future for different events, how to upgrade our facilities, and listening to what the residents need. The big picture Finding suitable location for more recreational needs. Obviously, we don't have dedicated pickleball courts. We don't have dedicated tennis courts. Yes, we do have tennis courts at the high school, but you can only use them when school's not in session. Community center's been the big one. We've had many meetings on the community center. I know it's a big budget item, but that is something that's vastly needed in this town. Wendy's working her best without a community center, and then we're helping her every step along the way. 3S Field has come up. It would seem to be a forgotten promise by to the residents, but now it's in the forefront. We've had meetings on it, and that seems something that we're going to help try and work this through and try and make that a fruition. We're currently talking with another person to install a disc golf course somewhere in the town. That will be an added benefit. And if we were to adopt that, we would be the only disc golf course on the island. So that's something that we're currently in talks with. A lot of upcoming events this year, obviously the music for 2025. There's a lot of wellness programs that are going to happen. We're listening to the residents to see what else they want. We've been hearing about adult sports leagues. I know there's a softball league, there's flag football. So we're listening to the residents and we're working with Wendy to see how we can get these in place. Facility upgrades, clearly we're going to continue to fix the stone walls, advise on that. We're working with her to see what new pieces of equipment she might need for the playground. And as I said, we're installing we talked with her about installing the wood fences along Linden Lane on 70 Field. In closing, I hope this presentation gives you a look into what our committee has been working on over the years. The committee is a complement to the work that has been done by Wendy and her assistant, April, over the years. I think I can speak for all of our entire committee to say that we love this town and we cherish the ability to have a vibrant Parks and Recreation department. And every dollar invested, as I said, from this council goes to the Parks and Rec department, only benefits the residents of this town. And that's where we come and play. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any questions, Mr. Perro?
Thank you for the presentation, trying to get through 27 slides as fast as humanly possible.
Listen, I whittled it down. My first time I walked through this, it took me 28 minutes and I think I did it in 15.
Yeah,
So
roughly. As a parent in this town, I absolutely love what Parks and Rec has done in the last couple of years to go from nothing to where it is now is a true testament to the work, like you said, to the work of Wendy and the committee. So I congratulate you on that.
thank you.
And thank you to everyone that was involved in trying to get these improvements done. One is a question, one's a suggestion, and then I have some other.
Sure.
First is looking at the playground that was updated at Glen Park. I know
Yep.
that you said that there's an ramp
Yeah.
that makes it ADA compliant. Does the wood chips in that park make it ADA compliant, or or was the ramp the first step?
The wood chips, technically, from what we were told, does comply with ADA compliance. The ramp was added, so the playground was initially added, and after the fact, they were like, "Ooh, we need a way to get," so they added it in.
Okay,
Yes.
that was just a concern of mine because I'm
Yep.
putting in comparison to Turnpike and
Yes.
how that is one of those mesh floorings, given I understand
It's
completely.
almost $1 million
Yeah,
playground.
no, completely understand that. The other thing that I did have a question, it's probably more of an improvement,
Yep.
is McCory Beach.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that we need to start thinking about bathrooms. I think it would be great,
Yep.
long-term thing. There is one thing, as someone that uses Macquarie a lot during the summer.
Okay.
Because God forbid I have to be with people from Mount Notice Bank. And I just love the fact that I could pull up my truck, pull down the flatbed, open up a pizza and have dinner there with my family. But there is something that residents in that town do, which is put up a small barrier that indicates where the kind of drop off is in that beach. It provides a visual sense for the children that are down there and also allows for parents to kind of know where the deep end is. Is that something that the town would be able to consider? I know for next budget year in investing so that there is a permanent structure and is no longer reliant on the residents that live there and whether or not they want to put that up. And I just think that it's a small investment that we can do into the beach for safety reasons.
Well, it's the first I'm hearing of that, so thank you for bringing that up. That can be something that we can definitely talk about with Wendy. Macquarie, unfortunately, it doesn't get all the love as Sandy Point, and I think we all know that. But we have been working with Wendy over the years to try and figure out some things we can do at Macquarie. Unfortunately, there's no facilities there. Like I said, this year we did talk about the porta potties at Sandy Point. We did say about putting them at Macquarie as well. So there will be some small things we can start to do there, but that is something I'll bring up with her.
I think definitely that would be like a huge change.
Okay.
Yes, to kind of bring, given we're not going to have parity between the two beaches, just given the structure that they currently have. And my last question is, Brian, what the hell are you doing here? Dayton? You retired 12 days ago. Other than that, thank you so much, and I appreciate the presentation.
Any other questions for David? Sure, Ms. Patton.
So great presentation.
you.
I'm just a little concerned of not seeing this before at with the committee members and at any meetings.
Okay.
So I'm not, was this something that you and Wendy did or?
No, this was something that we had been working on for a little while, and then I did share it with the committee prior to this coming up weeks ago and did ask for their feedback.
Okay, I was at the meeting. I didn't see this, so I was just.
You know, it wasn't on the agenda. This was something that I emailed our committee to ask them about input on the slides, and I did get some input and I did put it in.
Okay, so as the liaison, again, can you please add me to those emails so that I'm aware of just what's going on and any updates? I'd appreciate that. And then I did have a couple of questions that you spoke about with Carson Playground. You mentioned that they already removed a piece of the equipment.
Yeah, I was told that there was a piece last year. Brian, do you remember that? There's a slide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the piece in the equipment that, in the picture, there was I don't know what it's called, but you sit on it and you spin. There's the thing, the piece behind it where you climb on, they're removing that this year.
Oh, okay. And then. Phase 2 at Glen Park.
Mhm.
I mean, phase 3. I know that we had brought up during the budget season, adding possible equipment to Carson. Is that possible something can get into instead of, or can we fit it somewhere?
At Carson?
At Carson for next, budget
Yeah,
season?
I mean, Natalie on our committee is a neighbor, resident in that neighborhood, and we have been talking to her to talk to them. We did have a resident at the last meeting, I believe, speak about what they would like to see. Again, I think I said the bocce courts, they're gonna be taking that out pretty soon. So we are kind of working with them. Obviously, Wendy will have to put something in CIP budget. We just don't know what they're looking for yet.
Okay.
But that's, I mean, if they're willing to approve it,
Yeah,
okay.
I'd just like to see it there.
Yeah.
Even as a placeholder and.
Yeah.
It's just not a forgotten place.
No, that's why it was up there. We've been over time. I know there's always budget issues, but we have been working with them to, like I said, we've removed the brush, and I know with DPW, they're taking out some edging, or they fixed some edging this year. So we are starting to make progress on that field, playground. We just haven't heard from them what they'd like. I think at our last meeting, the resident that was there said there are still some young kids, but there's teens. So what could they use that teens might want to use? So.
Okay, thank you. And then my last thing is, the fitness center at Glen Park.
Mhm.
I don't remember, I know the grant, Wendy had shared the grant and spoke about that, but I don't remember any conversation about the fitness center or where it was going to be placed or if it was approved in a certain area down at the Glen.
As to my knowledge, it was either right near the playground, or I don't have the full details on that. I don't think she specified where. It was just a grant that they applied for to get equipment. And I think once we did it, I just was told that we just did get it. So I don't know if it's going to be right next to the playground or at the playground.
Is that something that she can, or you can share with us prior to, or do we know, or Rich, do you know where this equipment would be going?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what equipment she's looking for either. It was just something that was available and we did help her work to write that grant to get it. You gotta apply, but I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta fill out these grants before you really know what you're gonna do with
I'm
it.
just curious as far as what space is going to be available and what size this equipment is.
I don't think
Is
it's
that-
anything big from what again, she hasn't really divulged what piece it was, but they did apply for this grant and they did get it. So
Okay,
there'll be something, probably not big, but just
Okay.
something.
thank you.
Any further questions? Ms. McCallum?
Great presentation.
you.
Thank you. I've spoken to Mr. Rayner about this, and a big concern of mine with any of our town programs is the receiving of cash for any fees.
Okay.
And I will continue to be an opponent of this, of accepting cash for fees like that. Are you aware in other communities how they avoid doing that?
They collect, I've talked to Wendy about this and
Yeah.
she's talked to Middletown. They collect cash. All the beaches collect cash. It's just needs to be documented. And Wendy does have a sheet that she does fill out. And if you're talking about the line dancing classes in Middletown, she does have a sheet that she does have when as everybody comes in, they do sign and the I don't know what his role is there, the manager of the Knights of Columbus, they both sign off on it and approve like this is how much cash was come in. So it is documented. We're not the only ones collecting cash.
Yeah, I'm just asking, do you know if other communities have a better way of not accepting cash? Is it sometimes a Venmo, a town Venmo they might have, or
Can the town accept a Venmo? I don't know if they
I don't know.
can.
I mean,
don't
I
think they
think that
can.
that's,
I mean, there, you can have through Rec Desk, you can have a class online.
yeah,
The problem you're always going to run into is somebody going to the event and going, I just want to take this class. Here's $5. You have to have a mechanism to record that. I own a comedy club. I have people that walk up. We encourage people to buy tickets online. People walk up and they want to buy with cash. It's the nature of the beast. As long as there's a mechanism in place to record what came in and it is verified, and I think she's doing a really good job of it. She does have the manager or whatever his title is at the Knights of Columbus. They do sign off on it and it is turned into finance at that time. I think that's, I don't know. I don't know how to discourage people when they want to pay cash, it is, I love cash personally.
oh, I think everybody would love cash, but I
Yeah.
think we, as a town, no matter what department it is, I
Yeah.
think we have to make sure we have a pretty secure safeguard when cash is part and parcel of a program, that's all.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but we're no different than any other town that has a beach. I mean, I go to Second Beach and Third Beach in Middletown, you give them cash. I mean, there's got to be some sort of mechanism in place to record that cash. And I think she has a pretty good system in play. So I think we just have to put our faith in her, I guess. I mean, that's all we can do.
Any other questions? I have a motion to receive the report, place it on file. Mr. Fierro, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have 3 public hearings in a row. So I would ask for a request to open a public hearing for requests for Ian Hutton for approval of a variance to the sound limits set forth in the codification of ordinance 257 noise for an event that will take place at 48 Aquidneck Avenue. The event will be held on August 2nd, 2025 from 4 to 10 p.m. to allow for live amplified music for a party/wedding. Congratulations.
I have a question.
Motion to open up the public hearing.
Do you have a question about the public?
No.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Would anybody like to speak on behalf of this or against this? Ms. Blythe?
Should we have decibel limits
That's why we're here. I would say we would be similar to what we've done for
Right.
other events.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my one other comment I wanted to make, because I know we've done them all together. On the fourth one, can we modify the time to end at 10 PM instead of 10:30?
That was the same that I was.
But we have to start with the first one first,
We're on.
then we'll
public-
go to the third one.
Right.
So
I'm just saying,
let's
in fact,
start
we had
with
done it all
that.
together.
let's start with the Aquidneck Ave one first. We have to do them in order. So if nobody wants to speak, we have a
All right.
motion to.
Motion. I just gonna say, I'd like to at least set the maximum decibel.
We will
limit.
do that after we close the public hearing.
Okay, all right.
Motion to close the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now, you can make a motion to approve and set your decibel limit if you would
Okay,
like.
I'd like a motion to set the decibel limit at 75 dB maximum.
Would you also like to include in your motion an approval of the variance to 75
And
dB?
approval of
Okay.
the variance.
Okay. Is
Just
there a
for
second?
clarification, that's at the property line.
That's at the offender's property line, offended
Whoever's
property.
calling it,
property
yeah.
line.
Whatever it says, the ordinance covers that. This just puts a limit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna stand by what I said with the last one, that it's a variance with the decibel limit on it, I think is asinine and kind of goes completely against why we issue variances. So it's not completely against these people, the individuals who are bringing up the ordinance. It's just on principle that requesting an ordinance from the council and then getting a limitation still on it is kind of counterintuitive as to why we do these things.
Okay. There is a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Next, a public hearing and request for SHM NEB LLC for approval of a variance of sound limits set forth in the codification ordinance of 257 noise for an event to take place at Safe Harbor Boat Works at 1 Lagoon Road to allow live amplified music for Safe Harbor Garden Week, August 8th, 2025, from 6:30 to 9:30. This is out in the middle of the water. Anybody who have a motion to
So
open a
moved.
public hearing? Thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Anybody want to speak for or against?
Us or them?
You can speak anytime you
Okay.
like,
I would just do the same,
but we'll do that afterwards.
okay.
So anybody out in the audience want to say anything? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. So do I have a motion to set the decibel limit at 75 dB, which I don't think will be an issue here because again, it's
Yep.
out
So
in
moved.
the middle of the water.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Again, a request to open a public hearing for Andrea Shane for approval of sound variance limits set forth in codification ordinance 257 noise for an event to take place at 30 North Harbor Drive, July 18th, 2025, from 6 to 10:30 PM to allow for a live amplified music for a fundraiser to prevent relationship violence.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We have a taker.
Yes.
Would you like to speak on this one, sir?
Yeah, no, I just want to discuss what this is, so that you
Can you
should.
state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Dr. Jay Shackney. I live at 30 North Harbor in the Narragansett Bay Club. So 4 years ago, I lived in Barrington and I founded the Katie Brown Educational Program after my neighbor's daughter was murdered by her boyfriend. And what this program is, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit. It's a 5-session program where our teachers go into the schools and teach children from 4th grade through high school about healthy relationships. And over the past 23, 24 years, we have given this program to over 120,000 children in Rhode Island and Southeast Massachusetts. This And I will also say I teach medicine at Brown Medical Schools, but I'm a cardiologist. The program was studied through the university, Brown University, and shown that it is effective not only in changing attitudes, but changing behavior in terms of perpetrating relationship violence or being on the receiving end of it. So what is this event? This event is, it's blending my passions of sailing and then following the sailing route using 12 meters, the America's Cup boats. I don't know if you're familiar with them. After that race, we're going to come back, and my house is on 2 lots, and then I own the 4 lots beneath towards the water. So it's a big area. Everybody in the neighborhood is going to be invited. I hope to have a significant amount of people, and we hope to raise $100,000 at the end of the night. And what that will do, that will pay for 2 teachers, for a year, and we will reach, with this 5-session program, about 3,500 children. So it's a dark time, in this world. It's the biggest nightmare, if God forbid this would ever happen. And that's what we're trying to prevent. So that's the purpose of this thing. We want to make it good so people can spend money, and so we can do it. I am personally laying out every expense for it. We have involved that we're going to have police presence there. We are not going to offend anybody, but I just want to do it right. And that's why we're here today. So I just would like your support for it.
So I'm going to ask you the question that's going to be asked anyways. Are you okay with turning off the music at 10 PM instead of 10:30?
I guess if we have to, we have to, but I don't want to, if we're having a party and we're not bothering anybody, and it's July 18th. When does the sun go down? It goes down around 9 o'clock. So, I mean, if there was a complaint, they can either join the party, but everybody in the surrounding area, and there's it's really wide open space. And, and I've paid for the band, but it's a good band. It's like having a wedding outside. I would appreciate it. I mean, if there's a problem, we'll stop. The police will be there. But I really would rather not have these constraints if they're not necessary.
So if the wind's blowing right, I'll be able to hear it at my house.
And you can come.
I appreciate.
Bring a
the
check. I'm not letting you,
We can
but
get
but
past the gate.
that's the story. So that's the thing. I'm not getting anything. I'm paying for every expense. I just, it's tough with funding everywhere, federal funding, state funding we get from the city of Fall River, but everybody you heard here, everybody's under crunch.
Mhm.
And so we have to do it ourselves. I mean, this is what we live for.
And we appreciate what you're doing.
Okay,
Very
thank you,
much
sir.
needed. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Nothing online? No. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Ms. Blank?
Thanks. Greatly appreciate you coming up and filling us in, and happy to support and let people know about this event. With the ordinance, with the noise variance, it would just be if there was an issue, someone could say. It's not to say you have to be, if no one complains, it's just to give local residents reasonable accommodations at 10 PM. If no one complains, you have no issues.
Okay, super. That's good.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify. Sounds like you're inviting everyone, so we're circling.
As long as you have a check.
With a check.
No cash.
Mr. President, I don't know if we can say that. I certainly want to, expect the police department to honor our commitments. Just, if we're going to say play to 10:30, we say we play till 10 o'clock, whatever you choose. I think I know some areas of town try to stop at 10. Not having the ordinance in front of me, is anybody could answer whether it's against the ordinance to play after 10? Do we know that first off? Maybe the chief. Yeah.
I noticed everybody else who could answer that
Yeah.
didn't step up, so we'll go with the chief.
So the noise ordinance is at 10 PM, it goes down to 55 decibels. So normally 65 residential area, at 10 PM is the cutoff time, and it'll go down to 55. So that's the only thing in our noise ordinance
Okay.
that refers to that.
You could still have
10 PM.
amplified music after 10 o'clock.
Well, you can't have any amplified music
It
at
was a
all
variance.
without a variance. So that's the reason why people have to come here, is because I can get it, I have in my packet, the actual ordinance, but the ordinance says there's no amplified music at all in town at any time of day. So the reason why they have to come here is because of that ordinance that we have on the books that says that. So there's no time restrictions on any amplified music, according to the ordinance.
Thank you, chief.
So even if you did it till 10:30, you're increasing the decibel level or allowable decibel level to 75 from the 55 after 10 o'clock for a half
Right.
hour. Is
So
my
we
read
but
on
we
what the
could
chief is
allow
saying.
it.
If you wanted to allow it, yes,
Can I
We
make
have-
a motion?
sure.
Yes, you can.
I don't know if we had to adjourn yet.
No,
Motion to approve the request for variance up to 75 decibels and till 10 PM. For item 4.
for item 4. Even though we asked for 10:30. Okay. Is there a second? Hearing none. Would somebody like to try another motion? To perhaps allow him to have it till 10:30 since he's in a combined gated community? I'll hear it.
Right. I'd like to make a motion that we allow it to go from 6 to 10:30 and a maximum decibel level of 75.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. New business number 5, pavement improvements of West Main Road, Sprague Street and East Main Road project information. Thank you, Doctor. Have a great night. Good luck with the project. Ms. Hitchin. Let's discuss all things pavement, sidewalks, and intersection improvements in less than 5 minutes.
I think I pulled the short stick on this one. Hopefully I don't screw it up. Town staff reviewed a memo that we received from Wellington Hall from the Rhode Island DOT a couple weeks ago, and they informed us that they are expected to go out to bid in the summer of 2025 with anticipated construction to start in the fall of 2025 for improvements on West Main Road and Sprague Street. They had provided us some working hours and conditions. And Kathy, if you want to pull up that map that was provided to us. The work consists of roadway milling and overlay, pavement widening, and at 2 intersections to provide for a left turn lane, sidewalk reconstruction, new construction, curbing, traffic equipment upgrade, drainage repairs, reconstruction, stormwater treatment units, and replacing guardrails along West Main and Sprague. The work zone limits on this project include Sprague Street from both sides of Route 114 to 138, West Main Road from Corey's Lane to Turnpike Ave, West Main Road from John Kesson Lane to Mill Lane, and East Main Road and McCory Lane intersection in Middletown and Portsmouth. And lane closures and detours will need to be required in order to perform this work in an adequate amount of time. So the Brian Woodhead, DPW Director, Brian Peters, Chief of Police, and myself, we had reviewed the documentation and the conditions that DOT has set forth in allowing this to happen in as bestly as possible for obviously Sprague Street traffic volumes are not as intense as West Main Road, so DOT is proposing to close one half of the roadway and allowing a detour in one direction or one lane of alternating traffic from 9 to 9 AM to 3 PM on weekdays only. Work zone lengths are not going to consume that entire length, but be about 500 to 1,000 feet at a time. And the one direction detour will allow for a longer work zone length and an assumed increase in work efficiency. They have provided three specific conditions in working hours, and the first one is extending the normal working hours from 9 AM to 3 PM on weekdays only, and 8 AM to 4 PM weekdays only for Sprague Street only. The benefit in this condition is that there would be a reduced construction schedule, although not fully developed, and we don't have any additional information yet on that. And at the expense of increased travel delays and congestions. Condition number 2 is to allow the contractor nighttime working hours for paving operations only, which is nighttime will include milling, then paving from 8 PM to 6 AM or some variation thereof. And this applies to also the 4-lane section of West Main Road and any other areas with at least 2 lanes of travel in the same direction. Furthermore, condition 2 would be to allow the contractor nighttime working hours for signal disposal and installation work, such as installing mast arms, signal heads, wiring testing from 8 PM to 8 AM. That would specifically be where they're increasing the size of the box at East Main Road and McCory Lane.
And West Main and.
Yes, yes. Like I said, town staff reviewed these very limited scope of works and construction related restrictions. In addition to the holiday restrictions, Deputy Chief Morse did provide an updated local timeline of current events that would be going on in the area. I don't have any outstanding issues from what has been presented. The one thing that did stand out is, and we continue to ask this among, to DOT, is will there be a crosswalk with a pedestrian signal pole at the northwest end of Education Lane crossing Sprague Street to the north side in order to connect with the new sidewalk on Sprague Street? We're still waiting for answers. We figure that's a very important sidewalk to install.
I would agree with you.
Thank you.
Crosswalk, yes.
Yes.
Since we just spent a lot of money putting in a new sidewalk. Maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. Have they been in conversations since 9 to 3 is, well, during school hours when the buses will be coming down Sprague Street? Are we working with the school department to make sure they have a different plan and sending buses out? And which would mean we might need the help of police department during traffic, specifically for those dismissal hours?
We will incorporate the school department and the specific designees within the school department to mastermind that logistical issue.
Okay. For me, these repairs are long overdue, so I'd rather see them get them going as fast as possible. And I think allowing for a one-way detour on Sprague Street would be easier for them to put up their equipment and get more work done at a faster pace rather than going back and forth. It's not that much of a heartache to have to go around either Boyd's Lane or East Main Road or
Yes, I agree.
Dexter Street.
Mr. President, if you don't.
Mr. Payero?
Has the town, okay, so I'm looking at it from the other side of education, which is the Masonic Lodge. I'm not so concerned that, and as the person that runs the books there, I'm not so concerned about our ability to rent the hall out, but I'm concerned about the renters that we do have, primarily two, which are the senior center that is using our space for a bunch of programming during the day, and then the food pantry, and that still uses our our space. So I'm not so concerned about us. We could block out time. It's not neither here nor there, but I'm concerned about our renters. So I wanted to see whether or not either yourself or DOT has reached out to those organizations and taken them into consideration. Although I agree with you, Mr. President, that having one side, just kind of one traffic and just kind of bang it out would be ideal. I think that the alternating pattern helps out because having run the food bank myself, we know that people come from both directions in order to be able to access the services. And then being able to close Sprague in one direction will hinder people's ability to get to the Masonic Lodge in order to be able to get the service that they need.
This is the first time I'm hearing that the Masonic Lodge is rented out to the senior center for whatever reason. I was aware that the food pantry is located there. Hopefully one day the senior center doesn't need to rent space and that they.
You know, we're doing it now
Yeah.
because of,
Mhm.
for obvious reasons.
Mhm. So, we can make sure that, the appropriate designees are contacted for that specific reason, but, whatever happens, there will always be a police detail, present to allow, vehicles to get in one way or the other. And like I said, there's only between 500 and 1,000 feet of construction going on at a time. So to make things doable and to make vehicles be able to access property.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. Blank?
I'm sure you said it and I just missed it. Is there a total time frame of how long this would take, or it's dependent on what avenue, ironically, what we choose?
The design is expected to go out to bid this summer, and anticipated construction is supposed to start in the fall of 2025, meaning October, November, but usually construction closes down and then picks up in the springtime, so it could be up to 2 construction seasons.
So then am I hearing you correct, approximately till fall of 2028?
No.
No,
It would all be done either fall/spring. It'd be started in the spring and finished in, started in the fall, finished in the spring.
Okay. I just remember.
I could envision a scenario where they do the sidewalks in the fall and then come back and pave it in the spring, like Sprague Street.
at the same time, it's really hard to pinpoint an exact timeframe, other than I'm happy to
But-
say that it's on their radar and we're moving forward with
It's
it.
on the STIP. There's money put aside for it.
And then, I also just misheard. Will you tell me again the time frame requested for the milling at nighttime? It sounded different than during the lights.
They have broached us with different working hours. There is a condition to allow the contractor nighttime working hours for paving operations only. And that's from 8 PM to 6 AM or some variation. And that's for West Main Road.
Paving only, not milling up.
Yeah,
It'd be
Milling's in
milling.
there too.
Yeah, I thought milling.
Yeah.
was.
milling and paving.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
My question is whether, those are the RIDOT's recommendations, to speed up the job, doing overnight milling and paving operations and detours and changing the hours, et cetera. Do we as a town have any, control over that? I mean, are they asking us what we would prefer, or is this just technicality?
Construction is exempt from our town ordinance.
noise.
For noise. I do have to, I'm not siding with anybody, but I would like to think that if we can be efficient and agree to something like this, we can see the benefit of a positive road being done that's owned by the state in a reduced amount of time.
Yeah, it seems like if we had a better plan for them, because the West Main Road is 1.5 miles. It seems like that's one night that you would do the milling. You know, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a long period of time, but it is disruptive to people. That's the only concern.
We're admitting it's going to be disruptive. We're trying to accommodate it as quickly as possible while improving a road that everybody has complained about.
I don't think Sprague Street is going to be a noise issue as opposed to the overnight operations personally, but
I agree.
yeah,
But the overnight operations will get done faster with less people on the road, so.
you'd think so, yeah.
I forget when they did, the last section they did was Locust to Headley, or Locust to the 24 ramps, and that was done relatively quickly. Less people on that stretch. You know, we're talking about a few neighborhoods that are gonna go past on the lower section.
We have the utmost faith in you that you will do the best for the town.
I appreciate that, Mr. Gleason.
Thank you.
You don't need anything from us, this is just an update, correct?
It's just an update, correct?
Okay.
Thank you
Then
very
if you would
much.
like, we'll move on to your next item, new business number 6, unless there's any other questions. I fear any more questions from us, we'll just delay the process and we'll never get Sprague Street done.
I hope they're listening.
I didn't see anybody on there that I didn't recognize. New business number 6, request for approval of modification of building permit late filing fees.
Good evening, it's me again. A couple of years ago, we had no policy for anybody that was doing work without a permit. So back in July of 2021, we had made some improvements to adopt a recommended late filing fee of $500 to be charged to those who begin a construction project requiring a building permit prior to obtaining said permit. This is to be charged over and above the standard building permit fees required for the project. I think that was a much needed policy to have, but over time we have seen how there could be improvements made to that policy. And we're seeing homeowners that simply just weren't aware whether they're replacing a couple shingles or they get a permit and then they realize additional maintenance is needed. And it just cascades into further situations where a homeowner that simply doesn't know that certain building permits are required would automatically get a $500 late fee, which may end up costing more than the actual permit itself. So we would like to put forth modifying the language, specifically defining homeowners for first-time offenses for working without a permit to comply within 1 business day will be exempted from the late fee. Contractors and homeowners who are repeat offenders, we would suggest do not get an exemption or relief. And then again, we have the $500 and $1,000 offenses right now, and we would consider updating the fee amounts for repeat offenders who currently receive a late fee of $1,000 per violation. We have pulled some statistics together that there are some contractors who have continued to work without permits and simply just calculate this cost into doing business and just pass it on to the customer. We are suggesting in my memo here a tiered system should be considered in order to stop the repeat violators, as the current fee has done nothing to negate that. We would ask you to look at a first-time offense for a contractor and or warned homeowner the second time, a $500 per permit not issued for work. A second offense, everyone with no exemptions, $1,000 per permit. Third offense, everyone with no exception, up to $5,000, and it, each offense would double for not issued for work permits.
Any questions from the council? Ms. McGowan?
So with this new recommendation, I really understand the homeowner's first offense for working without a permit. I understand people that can do that and not know, and that certainly is a consideration. Will there be a look back with this new plan as to who the offenders are? And like, is this starting new, or is this gonna be those people are gonna be grandfathered? I'm not sure how this is gonna work.
Well, that's
Understand.
a great question. We already did some data collection as to who the repeat offenders are. But I think if the policy were to be modified tonight, like, it would kick in tomorrow.
So would start fresh? Is that what you're saying? Even though people have offended both contractors and homeowners, they would get a reprieve? No.
No,
Yes.
no.
You would have that database.
There are contractors that are already getting $1,000 late permit fees because of a second offense already.
Okay. And how do you collect them? I mean, do they just keep mounting up for them and they keep doing business as usual?
They don't get their permits until they pay the fee.
Or they're
Okay.
taken to municipal court?
Mhm.
Okay, then that's the other thing. So when they go to municipal court, like under the updated fee amounts, you have second offense, everyone, no exception, $1,000 per permit not issued for work. So when they go into municipal court, is there any negotiating there? Or like, we say it's $1,000, but is it conceivable they go in there and they pay $100? You know what I'm saying?
I can't speak to that. I mean, it would be at the discretion of any particular situation or conditions that are there.
You see what I'm getting to,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
If we have this hard and fast thing here, modifying it, and they get into municipal court and slap on the hand or whatever, this is going to be null and void, your attempts here, right? I mean, isn't it? I mean, wouldn't it be frustrating to you?
There's a lot of frustrating things to me, believe me, Mrs. McDowell.
I'm sure there is, but you see what I'm asking you?
I understand where you're coming from. There has to be a little bit of discretion, though, for maybe a homeowner. And there have been a couple instances where people have been caught doing work from whomever and simply did not know the process and literally came in within the hour or within 24 hours to deeply apologize, pay the fee. And I think there should be just some discretion for somebody who's clearly did not know versus those contractors that do know.
Right. And that's where I think the humanity part should come in.
Yes.
For that first thing. But let's say it's the second one, okay? The homeowner's second one. And there's $1,000. Our thing says it's $1,000 for the second offense.
500 for a homeowner.
Well, 500, sorry. And they go in, they've already they go into municipal court, I mean, and let's say they only do 100. It's going to negate everything that you've done here, I think. And so I don't know how we impress upon, I guess, municipal court to be more objective maybe in doling out the fines, you know? So that's one of my concerns about municipal court being able to use subjectivity with your new proposal, I guess. That's one of them. The other thing is, I think, you know, if we're going to these strides to do this, and we're serious, then I think we should take out like an ad in the Portsmouth Times to talk about the importance of this and the direction that, it's like an education process for this.
Well, that's actually something that we have talked about, not necessarily if this policy were to change, but there's been so many code improvements, code modifications that not everybody is aware of, specifically in terms of the energy code. So the building official and I have actually thought about doing just that with putting something in the newspaper, having the state building commissioner come down and holding a workshop on the cans and cannot do's in building inspections and being a homeowner, what a homeowner should know.
I think that would be a really important component of this new recommendation. Education, I think, is really important. And then the third thing to follow up on that education is, you know, Mr. Rayner does those TV things, right? And all about Portsmouth. I'm not sure what it's named, but that would be another vehicle by which we could educate. You could have the state building inspector with him or whatever with our new policy, that I think we've got to go to great strides to make sure people know this new thing. And I think.
I've been asked to be on that show several times, and I'd rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy.
Wait a minute,
Hate.
wait a minute, you'd rather what?
It's a Seinfeld thing. Rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy. I could always politely decline being on that show.
Yeah, but you got to
yeah.
take it for the team though this time. you
I
know?
realize I will.
Because that would be important, because I do think we need changes in this. And I think it's so very important that people know what the changes are and know that we're serious about these things and do them as objectively as we can. And I know there's room for humanity, but I think the more consistent we are with something like this, that sends a big message too. So those are my comments.
Mr. President,
Ms. Barrow?
yeah, just a quick question, in regards to obviously, you know, I'm a stickler for definitions, and I was looking at the ordinance. Is there a definition for what a repeat offender is?
We do not, and I think that's a great point to add what a repeat offender is.
Because I'm thinking about the humanity point of, like, as a homeowner, like, I get slapped on the wrist because of I forget to do a permit, but let's say, for instance, I do work on my same house 10 years from now, and the project I'm working on does require, and I don't know, am I now a repeat offender? And so I just think that a clarification of what a repeat offender is for both commercial and personal use would probably be beneficial to how an ordinance is executed.
I will take that into consideration. I think that's a great idea.
Ms. Patton?
Hi, Leah. My question is more, I had two questions. One, you said warned. How are you, or how would somebody be warned? Do you send them out a letter? Do you go and put a sticker on their door? What is the process, and what is that going to change?
The process is, right now, is we get a complaint or the building official actually sees something in progress, and we either, if we have the email, we will email the homeowner or the contractor, or the building official literally drives to the subject property right then and there, and will notify the contractor of what's happening and that they need to obtain a permit. Um, that's how I can explain the current
Okay.
process.
And then my only other concern is enforcement. You
Mhm.
know, I know you guys are only a couple in there and getting out every day is probably not possible. So enforcement now versus if you increase these fees, what's the change?
While we only have our building official right now, we do have one hell of a sentinel that's in our office, the building clerk, that has improved the way we do our paperwork. And she is making Excel documents and all sorts of tabulations as to the offenders and how many times they're late. So kudos to her for really cleaning things up in terms of who would be considered a repeat offender versus Mr. Smith homeowner.
Okay. And sorry, one more question would be, right now, is your list pretty big on offenders?
We have about 48 repeat offenders. Six of those are homeowners, with the rest being contractors.
So if they're a repeat contractor offender, they can, if they don't pay and they come in and get another permit for a different job, that's okay?
Oh. A contractor is viewed through the lens that they know what they're doing and they know that they should be obtaining the permit prior to doing work. Many of these contractors are working in clusters. I don't want to name out any specific
No.
project. And they find that what's another $1,000? We're doing a multi-million-dollar development in town. It's not a big deal. So whether they're working on one building and then moving to another, I would recommend that once you're on the repeat offender list, you're there permanently.
So those that are on your repeat offender list should just move over?
Yes.
Okay.
Should just what?
Kind of move over to the new.
They stay on the
They
repeat
stay
offender.
on
yes.
there and they would, yeah.
Yes. This is just updating the fees that people would pay. And a definition.
Right, right. I understand that. I just know that enforcing, there's been a process, so just curious.
Any questions, Mike?
Agree with Carlos on the definition and possibly a time frame between the offenses, might be good to list out.
No. If they offend in April and come back in the following April, it's a second offense.
Agree. I'm saying like a 5-year, 10-year, like.
No. No.
Can you clarify?
Someone works on their house and they did a deck. They didn't know they needed to pull a permit. 10 years later, they're replacing a shingle.
So definition of what a repeat offender is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying if it's 10
That's
years
a pretty
later.
wide definition.
Just a suggestion.
Okay.
Counselor. Also a suggestion for expanding for the first time offense where you had said 1 business day. If someone truly doesn't know and it might be the end of the day and they can't take time off, just a suggestion to change it to 2 or 3 days. Recognize the reasoning.
You can apply for a permit online.
Is there a top limit for homeowners? And in addition to that, as a homeowner, would the penalties kind of get multiplied? I didn't know I had to pull 3 permits. I hope it wouldn't then be, well, the first was this, now you're owing $1,500.
Well, if it depends on what type of project, you could be doing like a chimney sort of type of project, and you might need the building permit, and there could be a mechanical permit involved. Those are 2 separate types of permits that need to be obtained.
Agreed.
Again, and there's sometimes a homeowner doesn't realize there's connection between the two. Usually a contractor will pull the necessary permits, but there are some homeowners that want to pull their own permits. So is that what you mean?
Yes, if someone had to pull multiple permits and they had started work and they didn't realize, they should have pulled 3 permits. Are they then now being fined $1,500? If it's all as one project and that one project,
Well,
I think when they show up, they would advise them that there were multiple permits that they were supposed to be pulled.
right, and not,
And that would be an event. as
like
opposed
one
to a
event,
permit.
yes. It's just a suggestion.
Any other questions? Ms. McDowell? Yeah.
So Leah, do you really think this is going to make a difference? This fee?
it will make a difference to those handful of homeowners
Just, yeah, the.
that truly didn't know. And you honestly have a little bit of sympathy for them.
Yeah. Because I just don't feel that it's going to make a big difference except bring the humanity part into our present system. But as far as making a big change, I don't see it, but.
There's no humanity
Huh?
in the building world. I can tell you that right now.
Well, this is.
This is, I think a little adjustment like this could really help out the handful of people that truly don't know.
If people are getting whacked $5,000 for not pulling a permit, they're not going to be getting jobs. Because it's just going to be, if they're going to try and add that on to their fee to a homeowner, word will get around and they won't be getting jobs.
But they're doing it now. She has a list of.
I know
a
that they
lot
have
of
cheers list,
offenders.
but they're throwing 1,000. But if you read the ordinance, it now goes from 5,000, and then if they do it again, it's 10. If they do it again after that, it's 20. At some point, they're gonna say, wow, it's a lot cheaper for me to go pay the $75 to get a permit.
It may be, but I'm sure those didn't happen overnight.
But they're
I'm
only a-
sure they're
Understood.
multiple years.
But it's only $1,000. You can hide $1,000 a lot faster than you can hide 20.
Right, but we're talking over 40 some
Understood.
contractors. That's a lot.
And
Understood.
the data was taken between July 2021 to May of 2025 regarding that number
Yeah.
of offenders.
That's,
Thank you, Leah.
thank you.
Mr. DiPiola.
Mike DiPaola, 1074 East Main Road. I'm probably why this ordinance or this policy is enacted. It was probably enacted in 2021 when I first started having some issues with the town of Portsmouth. Back then, I had a violation. They told me my container was in violation of zoning. I had to follow. I got a violation of the mail. I complied. I got rid of the container. Then as I started driving around, there's containers all over Portsmouth. And when I reported a few, people looked at me like I was nuts. And why do they have to comply? They don't have to comply. Portsmouth ignored all those containers, but they made me comply. And if I didn't, I was faced with a $500 late penalty fee per day, per whatever, and so on and so on. Not only are these fees, they can be whatever they are, and that's a good attempt to try to correct some of these issues. But it's not the fee policy that's the problem. It's the people that are enforcing the policies. The planner has said this is a town permitting issue. It's not just a town permitting issue. It's a serious zoning issue that her office deals with directly. And not only do it goes to them, they go above and beyond and ignore it. As, for example, I reported 65 Garden Street.
Mr. DiPiola,
I'm-
we're not gonna go and
We're
go
not.
down a list of
There's
complaints that you've had. No,
There's a
you can
couple-
speak to the ordinance and that's
Okay.
it. Are you for it or are you against it?
I have other examples. First
I
of
don't
all,
need other examples. Are you
Yes,
for
which-
or against this
they said,
ordinance change?
I have a right to talk. Everybody else gets a right to talk up here.
Specifically
They can't
on
stop a
the
new premise.
ordinance.
That's wrong. A contractor from Bristol has repeatedly pulled, and I had nothing to do with them. I had nothing to do with them. Portsmouth even took him to municipal court, and he still kept doing it. And nothing was done. He kept pulling permits, and some were issued to him, and he had an outstanding track record. 92 Point Road, homeowner. It was a homeowner with a contractor as his father, who's part owner of the house. He started work without a permit. When he got caught, the ex-town prosecutor made it all go away with a $50 fine.
Mis-
As far as
Mr.
professional,
DiPiola, speak to the ordinance, please, or we're going to be done.
as far as the contract has to submit permit, there were numerous violations where contractors and homeowners submitted permits to the town. They never were paid. The work was done. The town lost out on, I did a calculation, a data dump, over $100,000 of unpaid permits. That work was done. There's numerous, it's not the problem, it's the ordinance. It's the people that are here in town hall and support the non-compliance and the
We're
selective
going to
enforcement.
agree to disagree on that. If
Oh,
you
we
have
can
any
agree.
other questions on the ordinance, I'd be glad to hear it.
People can go so far. They go so far and push these limits so far
Mhm.
that people even build houses without permits, a complete house without a permit. And because there's no permit, they haven't paid taxes for 15+ years. And we all know what I'm talking about.
No, we don't. Do I have a motion to either approve or deny the, yes,
And this is gonna pertain to the ordinance?
Yes.
Question. Hi, I'm Renee Ann Avenue, Portsmouth. If we are having such a problem with people that are repeat offenders, can there be a stipulation? Per se, maybe someone who offends 5 times, what would happen besides taking to court? Can we deny them permits? Like, don't bother
we'll
working
have our
with
solicitor
Portsmouth.
look into that.
Just because it seems like this is a really hot button issue and I love my town. Why don't we have good quality, honest people working here? So-
We have good, quality, honest people working here.
I want to continue that. So these repeat offenders, 45 on your list, maybe some of them should take their business elsewhere. My suggestion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the ordinance as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have correspondence, items 1 through, I missed a bunch last time, so I gotta make sure 7.
7.
I have a motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have future meetings. We have a regular council meeting, which will be on the Tuesday, the 27th of May. We have the June 9th regular council meeting. In there, we'll have the June 11th budget hearing, which will be here in the town hall. 23rd will be the final budget ordinance adoption. July 14th has been canceled, so our meeting after that would be the 26th. We have received, Mr. Rayner, I'm gonna look at you. We've received all the applications
For prosecutor?
for a prosecutor.
We have a staff meeting, first thing tomorrow morning. Immediately after that, we'll assemble them. We'll have the discussion with the people
And
on the staff who work directly with the prosecutor. And so by noon, you'll have
and you'll have them ranked based on what the process with the
We
staff
weren't
that-
intending to rank them. We were
Okay.
just going to give you our comments because it's your hire, your decision.
And then that being the case, we could have a meeting next week. I am out of town for the rest of the week. So,
Mary, do you want to pick a date or what do we want to do?
Well, I'd like to have a meeting as soon as possible. And before our next meeting, and do it like we did with the solicitor. Have, how many applications do we have?
I think
Five?
there's 5.
5, I mean, if we're not gonna meet to whittle down to 5, then make arrangements to have interviews of all 5 and, at a special meeting. That's my recommendation, and I would hope that we have interviews done by our next meeting, scheduled meeting.
So can we, this week you're gone all week? So the week of the 19th, Mary, do you want to, does anybody?
You know, that's.
I could only meet Wednesday or Friday that week.
Okay, so can we pick a day and then,
we can do Wednesday.
okay,
We can put a placeholder in the agenda for a selection of the prosecutor. Have our meetings on Wednesday, and then select a prosecutor. And just
Wednesday,
add
the
that to the agenda,
21st.
yes.
okay.
What time works for everybody? Being cognizant of these people also work for a living.
0 to 30 in the morning. No, it's earlier the better.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, whenever.
That's my
Yeah.
flight.
There's the school building committee is 4 to 5 that day.
Okay.
So do it during the day, in the morning.
First thing in the morning would be
Yeah.
ideal, so I can go to work afterwards.
Okay, so if we started at 9 o'clock, I
Yep.
know that's not first thing, but
The
21st,
21st.
21st.
The 21st. 9 o'clock.
Works for me.
Do we need a motion or anything?
Could you guys do 5:30?
They're gonna call to make appointments to see who can come in.
So can we ask HR to reach out to all 5 candidates and try and schedule? Yeah, try and schedule the meetings starting 9:30 is better for you?
21st.
Oh,
9, starting at 9.
I know.
Yes.
We both have to get out of work to do this.
I think I'm outvoted.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
would.
All right, we'll do.
yeah. So starting at 9,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
are we gonna need more than a half hour per? Unlike the last round, so if we did 9, 10,
Half hour
10:30.
increments.
11, 11:30, we're out of here by noon, I don't have to
Yeah.
buy pizza again.
Bring your own
Okay.
lunch.
All right. So we'll schedule that for the 21st at 9 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.